Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pipeline Podcast, episode 114. I'm your host today, Darren McClymans. Joining me today, first time on the channel, first ever time ever on the show, it's Connor. Hello, Connor.
Hey, what's up? Thank you so much for having me. I always love being on. Also, love the Christmas music that was playing in the little.
Thank you. I don't know if it's too early, but you know what? It's after Thanksgiving here.
It's December in like 2 days.
Yeah, it's about three and a half weeks away, which is crazy, by the way. I can't believe we're here already. Like, it feels like we were just in the summertime and now we're just kind of in the Christmas season at this point, which I don't know how I feel about that.
It's flying by.
Yeah. No, man, thanks so much for coming on today. We've been kind of planning this one. You know what? This one feels like it's been in the works for a minute, just like our last Walking Dead stream. Like, the whole year I've been kind of going through these shows for the first time, like all the Walking Dead shows. And
when did you start the main show? Like, how long's it been?
Technically, like 2022 or something that. Like, I watched the first season and then I took a long break and I did season 2, and then but it was like January, February of this year. I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to watching it. Yeah.
That was really fun. I enjoyed our conversations on Discord and stuff about wherever you were on the show and how you were feeling about certain stuff. That was really fun.
I agree. It was a blast. I think, you're going to be connected to my memory of the show probably forever now. It's just no, 100%. I wouldn't have known half of the things I would have known without you, and I wouldn't have been, my memory is tied to those Pipeline episodes where okay, this is where I am now. Okay, now this is where I am now, and the kind of
awesome
journey.
Because I enjoyed it. Because I hadn't gotten to talk about the show really at all in years. Because as well as that, a lot of my friends who I would have been who would have been watching the show live, all of them stopped watching at certain points. So it was eventually it was just me watching it. So it was really fun to be able to actually talk to somebody about it for the first time in years. So that was great. You got me into it as well, because I started rewatching. I rewatched the first 5 seasons around when you were talking about it all the time. Sure. I was like, I'm getting back into
it. Where are you now? Are you still in the first 5 or?
Yeah. So I think the last episode I watched was season 5, episode 3. 4 Walls on a Roof, which is my favorite episode of the show. And then it's right after that episode is where they start dealing with the Beth and hospital stuff. And I was like, I'll get back to it at some point. And that was 3 months ago, and I still haven't gone back to it yet. But I'll try to eventually. I will.
That's fair. I mean, it seems like you watched the bits of it you wanted to watch, right? It was those first 5.
I watched my favorite part of the show.
Yeah, if I eventually, not anytime soon, but eventually I can see myself going back, and I can see myself being okay, first 5, probably 6, and then maybe 9, because I also did really enjoy
9 is really good, yeah.
I really enjoyed 9.
I wouldn't mind going back and just watching just 9 on its own, because I'm leading up to that stuff with the whispers and the Jesus stuff, and it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been trying to get through Tales, which we're going to talk about later, and there's a character from season 9 in that in that season, and I don't like that character at all. But having her back almost made me nostalgic in a weird way, even though I didn't quite watch it like this year, but it was like, oh yeah, that was a really good time, even though I hate her character, which I thought was kind of funny. But no, like this is fun because like this is kind of one of the main reasons I wanted to get caught up, because I wanted to have these kind of conversations with the fans of the show. Like, I feel like it's really one of the only like TV universes on TV in the like comic, I guess comic book sphere, but also just like fantasy sphere as well. Like, you know, like we had the like Defender stuff for years, and we had the Arrowverse stuff. We had like, you know, a lot of this stuff, and I guess stuff like Star Trek as well kind of leads into that. And I guess, kind of The Boys, I guess, is kind of doing that now as well. Yeah,
like 4 or 5 years from now, we're gonna have a lot more seasons of The Boys, like with all the spin-offs they have.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun at some point to be like, all right, let's rank all the Boys seasons or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I'm happy that I've now seen the majority of this stuff at this point. There is, we'll talk about that once we get there, but there is one I still have not seen. I've been putting off for a while just because.
I'm interested to talk about that because that show, I'm so conflicted on it all the time. Sorry, one sec. There is a cat meowing like crazy. Let me just let him out.
Oh.
He's meowing at me. One sec.
Yeah, no. It's I'm definitely very excited to kind of step on here and rank them. And I was telling Connor pre the stream getting started, but like I feel kind of similar to a lot of them. So I kind of went about ranking these shows in just my pure entertainment. And like I don't normally do that. Like normally when I rank things, it's like, okay, my entertainment value and the quality and my, you know, like history with it. So with this one, I was just telling them, Connor, like I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to rank these shows. And like normally how I rank them is like entertainment value and quality and also just like personal kind of connection to it. And with this one, I don't really have a connection to a lot because I just binged them, right? And I felt very similar about a lot of them. So I just kind of went like, you know what? My general just enjoyment out of all of them and the list of how I just enjoyed them. So that should be fun. But Connor, I'm very excited to talk to you about things you've been watching.
So much.
You're watching a lot. There's been a lot of big TV shows I like talking to you about that we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things that you've been enjoying lately?
We were talking about it last night, but last night I binged through the 5 episodes of Cobra Kai season 6 part 2. I don't know why I don't think I was putting it off. It was just like a thing where the marketing was so bad for it. And then when it finally came out, I saw nobody talking about it on Twitter. So it wasn't like I was pushed to see it because of spoiler reasons. I was just like, nobody's really talking about it other than the weird. Are we allowed to spoil things here?
Yeah. Spoilers for Cobra Kai if you've not seen it already.
Well, the only thing I saw on Twitter for the entire like group of the new 5 episodes was the AI Miyagi thing. That like as soon as this episode came out, that was on my Twitter. But other than that, I've not seen like anybody talk about it, which is really surprising to me. So that like pushed me to not see it as much. And then you were telling me it was like half really good, half really bad, and I was like, okay, I'm interested. I was watching, and you said episode 4 was your favorite of the 5 episodes.
I think it might be, yeah.
Episode 4 was so awesome. That, the tagging in stuff, the bit where they're all standing in the circle, and then Hawk and Dimitri and Kenny all just start tagging each other in and going on that, and the Cobra Kai guy it was one of the most hype moments of the show. Like it reminded me of like season 3 is still my favorite season. And I remember the final of season 3 where they were in like the LaRusso house and like the home invasion stuff. And then when Hawk changes sides and goes to help Dimitri, like really quick, it reminded me of that scene where I was just getting really hyped for seeing like the team ups and stuff. But yeah, I completely agree. It's like some of the character stuff is really frustrating, but like as a whole, they were really fun 5 episodes. Like it made me so much more hyped for the rest of the season than the first half did.
Yeah. That makes me very happy because I was very like, I ended the season, I did not know how to feel because every episode it was a feeling of like, why are they doing this? This is so dumb. To 5 seconds later, I was like, oh, let's fucking go. This is so cool. And it's like, and I think that's a compliment to like the people who make the show because it's like, you know, we can sit here and be like, hey, I didn't like this thing. Hey, I think this could be better. Hey, this thing. But you're still making, I think, one of the funnest shows on TV.
Oh, absolutely.
like there is. I really like even part one where like I had a lot of issues with part one. There's a lot of things I did not like. But then I was still like, I ended it being like, you know what, fuck it, this is still hype as hell. Like I'm in, I'm invested. Like all the tournament, like triathlon things I did in the first half, like yeah, this is still like really really cool. Oops. But yeah, no, four was good. Like again, there was a little character stuff in there that I was like, oh okay, we're still doing this stuff, but like it kind of was like, okay, this is kind of what the show is all about. Like, the like bonding of the characters and working together. And like, yeah, that to me felt like, I'm curious how they're going to up it in the final five. Cause
that's what I'm saying. This felt like
the final fight of the show. It felt like,
it did.
Everybody finally working together.
Yeah.
Like Kenny and Miguel and Robbie, they're all in unison, I guess, besides Tori, which I've had issues with Tori this season as well.
Tori's always kind of been a character in the show that I feel like sometimes I'm loving what they're doing with her, and other times I'm like, like it feels like they've regressed her character a little bit this season, where we had like season 2 and 3 of her being really annoying and frustrating, and then they finally started to bring her onto everybody else's level, and now they've sort of brought her back to the other side. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I did a whole stream about this the other day. And again, I talked all the stuff I had problems with, but like, I can definitely, I understand narratively why they did it.
Sure.
Where
they
like,
needed somebody for that role.
Yeah, they needed another character in Cobra Kai that we can kind of like know and root for and stuff like that. Besides just Quan, a very unlikable character. They needed someone on that opposing side, but I do think it comes at like sacrifice to Tori as a character and where she kind of has gone. But at the same time, to give them that, I also did think they were trying their very best to justify the decision and being like, well, she's just a character who's very self-conscious and doesn't believe she deserves worth, so she sacrifices her own, goodwill and stuff like that. Where it's like, okay, I see what you're doing, and then like, my whole thing this season with her was like, why do you want this? Like, why does being team captain mean so well to you? And I felt like she got there on her own throughout the season. I was like, okay, yeah. And hopefully they do something to justify her in the final act, because she is like character I think that has gone through some of the biggest changes throughout the show and some of the most growth, and now they kind of like regressed a little bit of that. So we'll see. I
would say Tori's probably like the most frustrating character on the show to watch, just because of the character choices they make for me personally. And like, I guess both Tori and Robbie, but like, I don't know, Robbie, like, I was just getting really frustrated with Robbie this season, because it's like, he's supposed to be one of the best fighters on the show, but then, and like, I don't know, it felt like every time he was going to do something cool, they'd cut to him staring at Tori, and then he'd get knocked out of the fight or something like that. And I'd be like, come on, like you're making Robbie look like an idiot. Like, you're making him look like a weaker character because he can't, because he can't use his head in situations like this. And I know it gets brought back in the final episode where like everyone's fighting together and like fighting off everyone else around them, sort of thing. But it still felt like that. Like, sometimes I think Cobra Kai, it needs characters to be in certain situations, so it weakens them to put them in those situations. Same with Johnny. Like, Johnny's so cool, but then other times it's like the stuff at the big, and I don't know if it was episode 6 or episode 7, but where he was just constantly arguing with Daniel over really stupid stuff, and I was like, come on, Johnny, it's been 6 seasons of this. Do you have to be like that right now? I don't know, but I completely agree. Sorry, what are you saying? No, I was just gonna say like they can't decide Johnny's power scaling. He's either like you had him last season like taking on like 3 of like Silver's ninja like people who are like these masters in martial arts, and he somehow beats them. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And then it's like this season he just gets his ass beat for like 3 seconds. It's like, that new guy with the Iron Dragons was just going to town on Johnny. Like, there was that was pretty much the only person Johnny was fighting this season, and he was not doing well at it at all. Sure. And then you had like the Mike Barnes stuff in the first half where he, I don't know. I wonder if Mike Barnes will be back in the second half, because it feels like he's the one character from the films who like they don't have, like, I don't know where it's a scheduling thing, but it feels like when he shows up, he's only in like 1 episode and then he's gone for a while. Like, he's never really around. Sure. I could see an appearance. I could see something from him. What did you think of the 5th episode? I didn't like it as much as 4, like you said. Or 10, I mean. I'm sorry. Yeah, 10. No, yeah, I'm thinking of them as like 5 and 4 as well. Right. But I thought it was really good. But like on your page there where that that whole fight, like the big thing exploding at the end in the tournament, where you've got Silver fighting Kreese, you've got Johnny and Daniel teaming up to fight one guy, you've got everyone fighting each other. It felt like a sort of final fight that I've no idea how they're gonna up that for the final 5 episodes. Also, just I feel like that. I feel like it should not have taken that long for them to cut the feed at the end, where the episode ends with him shouting "cut the feed." There was like 10 minutes of blood and gore live on television. I feel like that would have been cut as soon as that happened. Like there would have been censors
minutes into it. 100%. And I had also been like, where's the security? Like you would think, like a room of the world best fighters, there would be some sort of security, police control.
There'd be people with guns that would be like shutting that down straight away.
Yeah, like these are this is a room of quite literally human weapons at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me. Has anybody ever had a gun on this show? Like, has anybody ever pointed a gun at another character on this show? I don't think they ever have. Do guns exist in the world of Cobra Kai?
I'm trying to think. Kreese had something at some point, right? Or like
he always had his like knife. I don't think he's ever had a gun though, has he?
I don't know. Maybe like a parent or someone like did.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't know. I do think at this point we should just like make karate illegal at this point. Yeah, like I feel like there should be no world where they get back to like the US and they're like, okay, back to normal. Like if I was their sensei, I'd be like, no, we're done. We're shutting down.
Like,
a person.
That's it. Fighting's illegal.
Yeah, a person died. I'm done. Like I don't think.
Person got stabbed. No way.
Yeah, and like I'm really excited to see Kreese's journey over this next 5 because I do feel like maybe we try to put him down like a redemption. Like maybe he like properly turns himself in because everything happened is 100% and 10% his fault.
Absolutely.
Everything, arguably everything in the show is his fault. Like going all the way back to the OG movies, like he caused Johnny to go down this path and caused Daniel to get bullied, and he brought so many people in, and he brought Quan in, and like every problem we have is his fault. Like really.
Absolutely. So I think there might be some change though, because Johnny protected him essentially against Silver.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's going to be a point of like, oh, okay, like I'm not going to keep this up. Like I need to like look at myself now.
Yeah, I could see him doing a walkabout and then being like, I'm actually going to turn myself into prison, tell him what I've done, all these things. I wasn't a fan of them being like, oh, he's pardoned from his crimes or whatever from last season. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. I feel like law enforcement is like just does not work in the Cobra Kai universe, where like they can't do anything.
Not.
Yeah. Because even like with Silver, the way he like Silver and Kreese both getting out of everything that they've been involved in, it's just. I
can buy Silver a little bit because he is rich enough. Like I could buy he buys himself out of any situation. Like I can get that, but yeah, no, it's strange. I also. Oh, go ahead. Good.
No, that was
okay. I also wanted to talk to you about Superman and Lois because
sure.
At this point in 3 days, we have the series finale of Superman and Lois, which is crazy. We talked last time you were on the show. It was our like pre-show Superman and Lois thing.
What we wanted to see or something in the season.
Mm-hmm. What's been your kind of take on this season so far? You've been doing obviously your videos on it these last couple weeks, and
yeah, I just finished recording a few videos that are going to be going up over the next few days, where I was kind of like talking about like I'm starting this new series where every Friday I'm putting up a video talking about what I've watched from the last week, kind of similar to what you do at the start of your podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking about Superman, Lois, and that, and then I did a video talking about what I think the ending's going to be. Kind of in both, I was saying like season 4 to me is when it's focusing on the character moments of Clark and Lois, it's the best the show has ever been. Like when it focuses on the human, like just completely character focused stuff, like you will not find better stuff in the entire show. Like episode 7, I think has become my favorite episode of the show, just based off of the reveal and the struggle that Clark is facing.
Yeah.
And like, is the Superman secret important enough for him to keep it, or is it finally time to just let it out there into the world? I have some slight issues, sort of like where some episodes, not even some episodes, I'd say like 2 episodes of the season, I've been like, I think maybe we could have spent the time better in this episode on something more important. Like episode 5, was episode 5 or episode 4 the wedding one with Colin
That's
Christie?
episode 4, I think.
Episode 4, okay. Like that's the episode where I was like, I don't mind Colin Christie being back, but I feel like I would have preferred maybe an episode focused on Jonathan dealing with his powers rather than us glossing over that. And then you can have Colin Christie doing their thing in the background. But like, that's kind of been my one issue with the season, is where sometimes I think the focus and the screen time is going to something that isn't as important as dealing with Clark's return from the dead or Jonathan's powers, or Lois even dealing with the aftermath of the cancer stuff from last season. But like, yeah, it's been hitting out some standout episodes. Episode 3 with Sam, the first 2 episodes, episode 7, like they've all been some of the best of the like DC TV, like in recent memory. Yeah, I'm really excited to see how it all ends. I'm hoping that the final episode isn't as much about like the action stuff as they're making it seem. I really hope episode 10 is mostly character focused stuff and less of like Clark versus Lex.
Yeah. My friend Taz was kind of, asking us the other day where it's like, do you think it's going to be templated like the Flash final, where it's like 10, 15, 20 minutes of like the action stuff, and then like that back half of the episode is all closing out these characters and where they'll go. And I think that is very important, especially I think a show, obviously it's all jokes because it was almost called Superman Legacy, the movie, but like the legacy of Superman, and like where, not even necessarily Clark, but like where are the boys going to go? Like I think that's one of the biggest things. It's like what will the Superman legacy look like in 5, 10, 15 years?
I think that's going to be a big part of the episode. Like, did you see the concept art that was from that Superman history book that came out this month? There was a Superman history book that's all about like Superman on screen and stuff like that. And inside that book, there was unused concept art of both Jonathan and Jordan from the show in Superman like kind of outfits. They were like Superboy outfits, but it was unused, so they were never. I'm thinking that's probably going to be used in this episode. I would be really surprised if like the final few minutes don't show the two boys suited up in the future at some point. I think it's got to be.
That's like, I'm setting myself up for those not to be here, because like, we've talked about those suits almost every week. Where it's like, okay, it's not here this week, it's not here this week, it's not here this week, and like this week I'm like, okay, I'm just going to assume they're not in it, and then if they are, I'll be like, okay, let's go. You know what I mean? And it is a shame a little bit, because I do think if it is in it, like I'm gonna want to see them in the suits and saving people, and like I almost wonder if it's gonna be like a bit of a cop-out where like maybe we see the suits but maybe not on them. So like maybe they didn't have the budget to actually make the suits, but like kind of concept of what the suit is kind of a live action. So like maybe like in the fortress there's like, he presses the button or whatever and there's a thing that comes down and has the suits or whatever.
That'd be cool.
Just something.
Here's a question for you, okay? If they do this, because in the video I was recording, I was talking about this a little bit. Do you think so if we do get them in the future both having their outfits, what do you think their name kind of thing is going to be? Because like I don't think they can't both be called Superman, and obviously Jonathan in the comics is Superman, but like and if it's in the future, they're both not going to be called Superboy either. My like theory was that they were going to use the Flamebird and Nightwing names from the comics for like the two Kryptonian hero god sort of thing. But like, do you think one of them is going to be Superman and one of them's not going to be Superman? Do you think it's going to be like a role that they both switch in and out of, or are they both going to have different names?
I don't know. Like, I don't know how much of it they'll actually see and how much of this would be like a hypothetical thing. We've had a lot of conversations this season where like I kind of think maybe they're leading into Superman being more of a mantle, or like Superman being an idea actually, where it's like hey, like Clark being like, hey, and I don't know how you think it's going to end or whatever. You can talk about that in a minute. But like, if Clark's like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I cannot be Superman anymore. But there's people who can. And you can have like Jonathan as Superman and Jordan as Superman and Steel as Superman, Natalie as Superman, and maybe even like a Tauro or whatever. Like, it is this idea. And like, I think
everyone gets
it would actually, like I think it would actually complement the season 3 arc very well of being like, we needed you in this part of the town. We needed you here, and you didn't see us. And I feel like that could be the complement of Jordan and Jonathan as Superman, where it's like, yes, they're never going to be as strong as Superman or as, you know, their father. But what they can do is there's two of them, and there is strength in having two of them there. They can do more than what Clark could have done as just like one person.
Yeah, because that's a big point of last episode where it was like, you guys have what I never had. You know, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Because they could even bring back like the Superman of America thing from season 2, like call themselves like the Superman of the world or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like a group of them, like essentially a Justice League, but it's all Superman sort of thing. They're all super characters. Like that'd be awesome.
Sure.
How do you think the show is going to end, like for Clark and Lois?
I'm actually very happy. I called it like episode 2, episode 3. The idea of like before the whole heart thing and before we knew what Sam was doing, I called like I think Superman will retire. I do think that's the ending of the show. I
think that's gotta be right.
Like I think like I don't know about the whole thing where he only has 15 years to live thing. I hope they fix that because that's dumb. I don't want Clark to die and, you know, like before Lois. But I really like the idea of Lex Luthor does kill Superman. He does, like, he succeeded in his plan and he killed Superman. But they're going to be able to see this as a gift because now Clark gets to retire with his wife, grow old with her, and then he gets to watch the kids grow up. And I already mentioned it here a little bit, but like I really liked the idea of like I want a montage. I want like
I think we'll get that.
I want to see Clark and Lois from like their perspective, watching them grow up, watch them become heroes, get married, have kids, save people. Like you can, you know, there's rumors about like a cameo next week. I'd be down for like they're fighting Brainiac for like a millisecond. Oh, they're fighting Lobo. They're doing cool, all these things.
Yeah.
And like you end the show with just like Clark and Lois in like on their porch on like chairs, just kind of watching it from their perspective. Yeah. I don't know. That's what I would want. I know some people are throwing her out. He's gonna die, and like you're gonna like it's gonna end on a funeral, and I'm like I don't want that. That would be a sucky way to end.
Okay, interesting.
What do you think?
So you're probably not gonna like how I think it's gonna end then, because I 100% think the show is ending with the death of Clark Kent. But I think I think it's gonna be like there's gonna be a time jump. We're gonna get a montage where it's gonna go through a load of years, and I think the final like scenes or whatever are gonna be like Clark Kent dying of old age, like he has a natural death, because they've said this is something no Superman adaptation has ever done before, and they've never done it before where it's ended. I was going through all these comics where I was going through All-Star Superman, I was going through Death of Superman, I was going through whatever happened in Man of Tomorrow, and I was like, what do all these, like, these are the comics that everybody is saying that the season is taking from, and all of these comics, they're about the finality of Superman. They're about what happens when Clark Kent is powerless now or is gone, and what happens to the legacy of Superman after that. And like a lot of the quotes from Todd and Brett Fleischer, they were talking about like how the ending, that like they've said that where the ending's not going to be something that everybody's going to love. Like it's going to be something that people don't immediately like, but maybe they think about it and they're like, oh, that's really good. They said it's going to be a sad ending. It's going to be hopeful but sad. It's going to highlight the characters, the emotions, and Clark Kent and Lois Lane. And I think what better way to highlight all of that than have Clark Kent and Lois Lane grow old together, and Clark passes on, and the hopefulness is that the mantle of Superman is now on Jonathan or Jordan or on everyone, like you said. I think yeah, it's gonna be a really sad ending where it's gonna like literally be a funeral or something like that. And like that's a pretty ballsy way to end the show, because when has any Superman project ever ended with him actually dead? You know?
Yeah, and also someone was talking about him in the last time I did, where it's like Superman Lois did also start with the funeral, with the death of Martha. Yeah, and like there would be something kind of poetic because most Superman stories starts with the death of Jonathan, right? So maybe it's like, is that their boys' moments where it's like, okay,
Mark is there
now,
Jonathan.
Right? Like, how do we deal with that? Which
I didn't think of
again. Yeah, like again, I don't think it would be bad if that's the way they do it. I hope they don't, because I don't want to say goodbye to Clark. Like that's such a heartbreaking way to end it. But also, I understand if that is the direction they want to go in. I guess
I just think like they did, yeah. But I like
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just thinking like the show has always been about the emotions and the character stuff, and
Sure.
I feel like ending it with Clark still being even a mentor to the boys, even if he's like he's powerless, but he's helping them out with their stuff. I think that's still such a safe and expected way to go with the ending.
Mm,
I think him actually dying is a way for them to be like, this is why Superman and Lois is not your traditional telling of the Superman mythos. Like
right.
this is why it feels different.
Mm-hmm. A very like Logan styled ending,
Yeah.
which actually might make it a little bit more like, I don't want to say legendary, but like iconic, I think, in the eyes of people, because I think when you like kill a legacy character like that, they become so much more memorable, like an Iron Man or a Logan or whatever. And there's probably no coming back. Like I unfortunately don't see a world, unless there's some kind of weird crisis in 20 years. But like even then, I don't know if Tyler is the Superman you'd bring back for a thing like that, right?
I don't think so either. I think I think Brandon Routh is more likely to make a return as Superman in the future than Tyler would be.
Yeah, and I think in terms of like the suit, like unfortunately in terms of like the CW Arrowverse people, you're more likely to bring in a Grant Gustin, a Melissa, a Stephen Amell, even like a Katie Cassidy. I feel like they're like what you think about when you think of like the CW era. Unfortunately,
yeah, I think
maybe
Grant,
you're right.
if anybody's returning, Grant, it's
Grant. Yeah, I think Grant and Stephen are the people you call first, 100%. Like they're the headstones of, or even like a Tom Welling, I think would actually be probably more likely than a Tyler Hoechlin, unfortunately.
Could see Tom as well, yeah. The thing is, though, I think Tom is still super against ever putting on a Superman suit. I think that's like the thing with him where he's like, I'm never wearing a Superman suit, sort of thing, which is crazy to be one of the most iconic versions of the character and have never put on the suit.
Yeah. Who do you think the cameo is? Because I think people have been losing their minds a little bit this week.
I'm trying not to get too into it, because I'm wondering if it's because I remember when the Tom Cavanagh stuff was originally, everybody was saying that was in the finale, like Tom Cavanagh was going to be the cameo in the finale. So I'm wondering if that's still the case, where people have just gotten conflicting reports and they didn't realize Tom was going to be in episode 8 and not episode 10. But I think a cameo is going to be somebody from the show. Like I don't think it's Talro, because they've talked a load of times about not being able to get him. I don't know, it could be like Lucy Lane, it could be a flashback with Sam, it could be Jarrell or Martha also in flashbacks, sort of thing. I could see that, where it's like, I could see the episode starting with something where it's like we're flashing back to a moment in Clark or Lois's past that was important to them that we didn't see on screen. Could be a Sam Clark Lois moment, could be a Clark Martha Lois moment, could be something like that. I've seen people say Melissa's Kara. There's no way. There's no way. I've seen somebody. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen somebody say on Twitter that it could be Jordan Elias. Was that his name? The original Jonathan Kent coming back as Bizarro's Superboy. Which that'd be insane, but okay.
Yeah. I kind of wanted, like, this season we did not have Tom, and I would not have wanted to waste on it, but I would have liked, like, the current Jonathan to put on and play that character, because I think it'd be cool to see that rematch now that he has powers, and like be like, oh no, I can fight back now. Like you kind of just threw me around last time. Like I think that obviously we didn't have time. There's a lot of things we didn't have time for. Like
in a 20 episode season, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, that's been my biggest thing about the season. I think the season's been excellent. I think it's still one of the best seasons of TV I've seen this year, easily. Like,
I agree.
Fantastic. And it's all just like me grieving what we could have had, and me looking at the current thing and be like, this is really, really good. But I would go a step further with this, or I'd like to spend a little bit more time on this, or I'd like to sit a little bit better. It's very clearly 3 to 4 seasons of TV, and I think they're pacing it very well, but still put in the season where it's like, I'd like to see the death of Superman fleshed out a little bit more. You know, I think the Clark versus Lex and Lois thing, that's been pretty well, but everything with like them training the boys and them learning to use their powers together, that was a whole season of TV, I think.
Absolutely.
I think there's been like little, I think with both of the like 2 different character appearances we've had were probably teases for what we could have had. So like the Tom Cavanaugh appearance, I think, would have led to maybe a dark side down the road.
Yeah,
maybe
it could be like a final season thing for sure.
Same thing with the Brainiac stuff. I think we would have got full on Brainiac. They couldn't do it, so like, hey, let's just have the human version of him just be there, for we can just represent what we wanted to do, kind of thing. And that is just frustrating, of course, like, because we want to see it. But honestly, like, they're also doing such a good job. Like, I think like a lesser show would have, I think, like, not been able to do what the show has done. You know what I mean? Like, I think, like, not to keep shitting on the MCU stuff, but like, I feel like the MCU shows have had like quadrupled the budget and the resources and everything they need, and this show having less writers and less of a budget and less of a cast are still better than anything they've done over there, basically. Which is,
I agree. Other than Loki, I completely agree. I think Loki is like, I don't know if I would say that I prefer Loki to Superman and Lois, but I think Loki is the one MCU show where I'm
Loki's
like,
good.
this is the kind of writing I want to see, you know, from this stuff. But I agree that Superman and Lois pretty much hands down beats any other of the Disney Plus shows, you know, like in terms of what they're doing. Like in an ideal world, I would have loved an episode or two after Clark comes back of him dealing with like the mental stuff of the fact he was dead. Like, what was that like? How does he deal with that? Because we really sort of glossed over that.
I agree. There's so many things that like surrounding his death and the time he was gone. I wanted to see Hart's reaction to Sam sacrificing himself for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jonathan getting powers and Clark not getting like a reaction out of that is so heartbreaking. And like, I wanted to really spend time with like, this season's done a great job with like Clark and his relationship to Smallville and like the people of Earth. I really wanted to spend time with like, what does Smallville feel? How do they feel that Superman has died? You know what I mean? And we got a little bit of that in like the second episode, but like I wanted more. Like I wanted to see that fleshed out a little bit more. But
I completely agree, because it's like even that scene where at the end of episode 7 where Clark comes into the diner and he's bracing for the fact everyone's going to look at him differently now, and then I think her name's Denise, she goes, she says, "Hi, Mr. Kent," or something, and it's just that like reassurance that like nothing's changed, like the people of Smallville still see Clark as Clark. And I would have loved to flesh that out more, like to see what it's like now to be, because I feel like episode 7 set up a promise that we were going to see a lot of how the people of Smallville view Clark now, but episode 8 and 9 understandably didn't have the time to really deal with that, so I would have loved more of that stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm trying to think like what amount of episodes would I have wanted, like hypothetically, for a final season, and like I feel like it's such a bargaining thing now, because I'm gonna be like, I want more and more and more. It's just like maybe 13, maybe 15. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's tough.
It is. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm very excited for the. I won't say excited. I think I'm less excited for the finale because I don't want it to be over. But
it is weird that like 3 days from now it's gonna be it. We're gonna be done with DC TV on the CW.
Yep. The next time I do on this channel is going to be talking about the final episode, and I don't think I'm ready for that. Yeah. But we're gonna be jumping into a couple of news stories. It's been kind of a slow week, but I've been trying to gather. I gathered what I could. There's a couple things I want to talk about. Actually, they're all Marvel related this week. There's been some Marvel things to come out I want to talk to you about. Paddington 3 has moved to February 14th in the US theaters, same day as Captain America Brave New World. Now, I know this is
interesting.
Okay, go ahead.
Paddington 3 has been out here since the beginning of the month.
I was going to ask you about that.
I know some of my friends were at the Irish premiere of it, like the film premiere of it. Which I think was like the worldwide premiere of it was here in Dublin, and they were at it. Some of my other friends have seen it in cinemas. So like it's been like that doesn't mean a whole lot over here, because Paddington 3 is probably going to be on streaming by like the beginning of January, you know?
Sure. No. That's what I was going to ask you about, because when I was putting this together, I was like, oh yeah, I have someone who's not in the US coming on today, so I'm curious what that conversation was going to be like. First of all, are you a fan of the Paddington movies at all? Have you?
Yeah, I think 1 and 2 are good. They're very English, which, as being from Ireland, we don't super love very English films. And one of the things, like when we're like I know everybody says Paddington's the greatest thing ever, but I like when people bring up Paddington over here, it's always followed up by you have to bear in mind that it's a very English film. So it's like so
Sure.
it's like there's always a but when it's mentioned over here. But they're good films. They're wholesome. They're fun.
Sure.
Whatever. It's just Marmalade, Red Buses, London said it's not at the top of things Irish people like to watch.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I love the first one. I haven't got around to the second one yet. I'm
Sure.
been kind of waiting for this new one to come out. It's been a while since the last one, actually, so it's kind of
It was
crazy.
like
It's been
2015. Was it
Yeah.
that early?
almost 10 years.
That's actually crazy. Yeah, I didn't realize it was that long. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Maybe it is 2017. 2022. Yeah, 2017. Right.
But I do think this is kind of a big thing, at least over here, because like my thing with Captain America 4, obviously that's the next upcoming MCU movie, and my whole thing was like, I'm concerned about the box office and how it's gonna do, but my positive to that was like there was nothing else really in February. Like February was a lot of very small things. Captain America was easily the biggest thing by like a lot, and it's Valentine's Day weekend. I was like, you know what? I might actually be able to at least make back its money by the end of the run. I was like, I felt pretty confident about that. Paddington 3, though, I do think maybe throws a wrench in that a little bit.
I think they're pretty different demographics, though, wouldn't they be? Like, I feel like Paddington 3 is going to get a lot of the younger kids who might not necessarily want to see a Marvel film. Although I guess Marvel isn't like it's like not. Marvel is also very much geared towards getting, kids in seats because of toy sales and stuff like that. So maybe it's more of a problem than I would think.
Yeah, I think the MCU audience at this point is like families at this point. Like obviously it's like us comic book fans, but it's families that want to see these heroes on screen, like kids buying the action figures and stuff like that. And I also think like the Valentine's Day audience, while not insane, people like to go to movies on Valentine's Day. That's something they like to do.
Oh, Madam Web on Valentine's Day last year.
Oh God, you're right. It was.
Yeah.
But like when you're like, okay, like going on a date, are we gonna see a Marvel movie where my significant other maybe hasn't seen or is not caught up? It's a new character basically to the modern audience, or a cute little teddy bear.
Yeah.
They're going with the cute little teddy bear like that. Like
Probably
that's a much cuter date night movie than I feel like Captain America, like a like political drama Marvel movie that's 25 years in at this point. So it's like
the trailers for Cap 4 do not scream fun Valentine's Day film.
No. Yeah, no. I'm curious. I really want this movie to do well. Like I know there's been a lot of controversies with the movie. Rumors been some of it's been cut out. Rumors there's even more reshoots happening. I'm nervous for this movie. Like I'm really, really concerned about this movie. And I really want it to do well though. I think like I think Anthony Mackie deserves this win, having done Marvel movies now for 10 years now, right? Because Winter Soldier came out 10 years ago.
2014, yeah, you're right.
He's been playing this for 10 years now. This is his embarking on his next era of Marvel. Hopefully the leader of the Avengers. Like I think he deserves that win. And if it is a flop, I know what the narrative around the movie is going to be.
The message is not going to be good.
It's not going to be good for Anthony Mackie or the transition to the new Captain America. So it's like, well, and I'm also concerned what Marvel is going to think when they, when the CEOs are looking at that, being like, oh, this movie flopped. Well, we should bring back, Chris Evans. We should bring people love that Captain America. That one made money, so let's bring him back. You know what I mean?
No, I completely agree.
It does well.
Yeah, because it's like Anthony Mackie was fantastic in Falcon and Winter Soldier or Captain America and Winter Soldier, whatever title it's technically called now. But he made such a good debut in episode 6 as the new Captain America, and I was really excited to see what they were doing with him. And then unfortunately, they took 3 years for his next appearance to be in anything, which is a long wait. And I think I completely agree that he deserves so much more than to be in a film that is filled with controversies, that's filled with reshoots, that's filled with everything. Like Captain America 4 feels like it's the most controversial MCU film in a while. I can't think of. I guess the Marvels was ever. That wasn't even. It might be ever. Yeah. He deserves more than this, and I really hope that they don't come out of this if it flops or if the reviews are negative. Going, okay, we can't have Anthony Mackie as the front and center of Doomsday or Secret Wars, or we can't do a Cap 5 or something like that, because he Anthony Mackie has been a champion for the MCU. He's been with them, like you said, for 10 years, but even then, it feels like in terms of interviews and conversations, Anthony Mackie's always talking about the MCU. He's always pushing for the next stuff. And I would love to see him like be one of the main faces going forward.
I agree. I think like I kind of think at this point, if he's not the lead of Doomsday, that's kind of like a load of BS, because I feel like everything we've seen in this movie, yeah, he's leading. Like I can't even think of anybody that I would want to have that mantle. Like, who else? Doctor Strange? Like, I don't like.
Where's he even been? Strange dipped. He met Cleo when he got the hell out of there, and he hasn't been back.
Yeah, I don't know. I and like I was talking about this on the stream last night, but like, as much as we both love Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think that's some of the best Disney Plus stuff we've had. Out of all of them.
I agree.
I do think that should have been Captain America 4. I do think like
that would have been a good story.
As good as that is, and as good as that show needed extra time, I do think maybe that story should have been the Captain America 4 story, and we're getting now should have been Captain America 5. Like, we should have been gearing up for a second outing with his Captain America at this point.
So you would have had Bucky, you would have had the whole John Walker stuff, which was one of the more interesting things to come out of Phase 4 of the MCU. Like, there would have been a lot of cool stuff in the film, along with Anthony Mackie taking on the mantle, that I think would have been really interesting. Because we're also faced with this problem now where, like, people are watching the Disney Plus shows, but a lot of the wider general audience who are going to the cinemas are not going to be like, oh yeah, I remember all this from the TV shows, Like, these films, I feel like that if you're going to have a character from the TV shows be a huge part of the films, then the films should be where major developments for those characters take place.
I agree. I'm a little concerned for Thunderbolts, because I feel like Thunderbolts is like probably the biggest example so far where you have to have seen some of those TV shows. Like, you have to see Falcon and Winter Soldier, you have to see Black Widow, which technically wasn't a Disney Plus show, but it basically was on Disney Plus.
It was. At least same day or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I technically saw it in theaters, but I know most people did not have that experience. They saw it, in their homes or whatever, and then...
It was one of the first films I remember that came out after COVID for us that we were able to see.
Yeah. What else? Ant-Man and the Wasp as well, which is also not a very, like, recognizable Marvel movie. So, Falcon and Winter Soldier as well. So it's like, there's going to be a lot of, I don't know these characters, so why should I see this movie kind of thing. So... I don't know.
I'm really hyped for Thunderbolts, though. I think Thunderbolts looks great. I think it looks like a really fun time.
I agree. Our next one here, Ryan Reynolds seemingly teases a new Deadpool Christmas special for Marvel. Did you see this?
I did, yes. So do we think that's going to be like a surprise drop on like the 24th or something?
I don't know.
Like a 20-25 minute Marvel presentation? Because we haven't had one of those since Guardians of the Galaxy.
I don't know, because, like, if they are, why drop What If also on Christmas Day or on Christmas Eve?
That's true. They'll overshadow each other.
Yeah, like, that's the thing, where it's like, I can't see this just dropping this month with What If and everything else on Disney Plus this month, like Skeleton Crew and, like that new Inside Out show. There's a lot coming out, and for them, the new Doctor Who special as well, like, a lot of that kind of fun stuff. But also, why tease it now if it's going to come out an entire calendar year from now? Apparently they filmed this in October, whatever this is, in October.
Wow.
Because like he had teased, because that's when the rumor started. He had posted on Instagram like, hey, filming something cool, and it's him in the Deadpool suit. We're like, what is this? That was back in October. Yeah. So plenty of time to get something edited if it's not like a huge like special effectsy thing. Like if it's just him kind of in a Santa suit or whatever. Like plenty of time.
Didn't they do something like this for Deadpool 2, where it was like Once Upon a Deadpool, where it was Fred Savage, I think he breaks into his home and he like recounts the story of Deadpool 2, but in like a PG friendly way. What if it's like a similar thing of that, where it's like a PG version of Deadpool and Wolverine, where it's Deadpool telling somebody about it? Because I feel like that's something it doesn't take much filming. It's like 10-15 minutes of scenes that you put at the beginning, the middle, at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine to like narrate it, and then you just edit a PG version of Deadpool and Wolverine somehow.
Right.
Because I feel like you don't need as much marketing for that, because it's not like a big new thing, and then you can just like drop it like the weekend before Christmas or something like that for
Sure.
families to watch, because it's like a way for families to watch Deadpool and Wolverine over Christmas.
Yeah, I've been like, my mom watches all the like MCU stuff, and I've been debating. Like, she wants to see this one. I'm like, I don't know. I've been trying to, like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
like it's not nearly as bad as the previous ones. I feel like it's much more. I honestly don't think it's that bad. Like, outside of a couple jokes here and there, pretty PG-13 for the most part. Outside of
I
like the
think it
blood and
feels
stuff.
like it, yeah. It's very, it feels more bloody than the other ones, but I feel like in terms of like, you know, they say a lot of curse words and stuff like that, but in terms of like actual
Yeah.
like you know, I don't know what ratings are there. R rating sort of jokes, I guess. There isn't that much in it. You're right.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, no, that could be very possible. I'm always a big component. I like the idea of every year having a Christmas thing for Marvel, because last year was What If, year before was Guardians, year before that was Hawkeye. Like, I like the idea of each year having a Marvel thing, or like a Marvel Christmas thing, like kind of like what Doctor Who does, where it's like, which I think is smart because it's making, from what I imagine Doctor Who fans would say, where it's like you connect Christmas with that IP. So it's like every year you can expect, oh, I can't wait to see what this year's Marvel or this Christmas thing is going to be, kind of thing. Like, I think that's very smart marketing. But we'll see, I guess.
I completely agree. I also think Marvel needs to be doing that more. Like, we should be getting, you know, with the amount of characters that they have at this point, there's no reason why we shouldn't be getting like a 20-minute Marvel special every Christmas or something like that, you know? Like why have we not gotten a Spider-Man 20-minute, like Tom Holland's Spider-Man? Because didn't No Way Home end with him going out the window at Christmas time, you know? Why didn't we like get a special that's him that night going off and fighting like an obscure Spider-Man villain for 20 minutes or something like that? You know? Like, they should, like, because it's like, with DC TV, we're very familiar with getting Christmas episodes of shows because the last episode before Christmas is like usually Christmas themed. We don't really have that to associate with Marvel, and I feel like we should. Like, how fun would it be to be able to have like a Marvel Christmas binge of like stuff that's Marvel that's set around Christmas? You know,
I would much prefer them dive more heavy into like I think I would honestly prefer, obviously, a couple TV shows is fine. Like, we're getting the Daredevil and stuff like that. That's all good. But I think I'd much prefer a series of a bunch of like presentations a year than a bunch of shows. Like,
I would agree.
Give me Spider-Man's Christmas. Give me, I don't know, Hulk goes to the mall. I don't know, just like whatever little tiny 40-minute story you want to tell. And I feel like that's better for like, what's the word? Like, that's
keeps
better
the characters
for, like,
active.
Yeah, that, and also I feel like it helps the brand a little bit, where it's like, oh, I have to watch 8 hours of this show to keep up. It's like, no, it's just a 50-minute special to learn what's happening in the world of the MCU. Like, I think it's, I don't know, I think it's cool.
I agree, 100%.
100%. Alrighty, our next story, speaking of Spider-Man, I don't know if you saw this, came out yesterday.
Oh, yes.
A new teaser for Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man shows Spider-Man being an internet streamer. Hey, look, it's just like us. And people are mad. Okay, first of all, are you excited for the show?
I'll probably be watching it, but I wouldn't say I'm super excited for it.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm excited to see the Daredevil stuff and the Nico from Runaways thing.
This has been a weird one because it's been announced for a very long time. They announced it late 21, early 22, something along those lines. I forget if it's 21 or 22. And all we've had for it has been those really bad looking character models for years. And that's been it. And I've defended those for a very long time, especially since X-Men came out, where like we all said like, hey, this animation looks terrible.
Yeah, I didn't think it looked great.
Like, the actual show came out, we're like, oh, this looks beautiful. Like, this is one of the best looking like Marvel animated stuff in a while. So I've wanted to wait and see, but the more trailers and like teasers we've got and the more stuff have come out, like, I don't know. They haven't convinced me yet, and we're yet to get like a proper actual trailer, which I'm hoping happens hopefully after What If, which I think is too late at that point, but like soon, hopefully.
So it's early January it comes out?
January 29th? I think so, end of January. So what are your thoughts on Spider-Man being a streamer? Because this has been very controversial on the interwebs.
It does not change a single thing for me. We already know Peter was making YouTube videos at when he shows up in Civil War. So it's like, why is it a problem he's doing this? Like, it makes sense to bring Peter Parker Spider-Man into the modern day. And it's like, if Peter Parker, like a 14, 15-year-old Peter Parker was taken from the MCU and existed in our world today, he would 100% be posting his stuff on TikTok because, like, that's the whole point of Spider-Man in the first place, was that he'd take pictures of himself, sell them to the Daily Bugle so that he could get some sort of, like, Spider-Man knowledge out there, but also get a little bit of money because he was broke as hell. This is the same thing. He's putting his stuff on TikTok so he can maybe make a little bit of money to not be broke as hell, so he can actually afford to buy some of his Spider-Man gear or something like that, and to help Aunt May or to help Uncle Ben, or if Uncle Ben's still alive, I don't know. But, I think that this is just a way to modernize the like Peter Parker in a way, because it's just taking pretty much him selling pictures of the Daily Bugle but putting it in today.
I agree. I this doesn't like excite me. Like, I'm not like on the streets being like, no, you guys are wrong. Like, this is actually really cool or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care too much. I literally, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's cool, I guess. I scrolled right by. And then like an hour later, everyone's like, how could they? They're on their keyboard.
What are they doing?
Like, they ruined Spider-Man again. Like all these people are like
woke man,
Disney needs to give up the rights of Spider-Man. It's like, guys, I here's the thing. This show, I can already tell you, Twitter's going to be hell on earth when the show comes out.
Yeah, no, they're not going to like it.
Everything we've seen about this show so far has been about changing the status quo of Spider-Man. Just like how he's got his powers, and how he's connected to Doctor Strange and Daredevil, and he's going to have like a relationship with Norman, all these things that seem to me as it's going to be a very interesting like dichotomy, I think, in terms of like looking like a very traditional Spider-Man, but then modernizing the character for the modern day. And those two things, I think, battling each other is going to be interesting to see what they do with that. So again, I think this could either be one of the coolest things Spider-Man does in a while, or it could be a mess. It could go either way at this point, because we still really don't know much at all. Really, we don't know anything.
I feel like if this was going to be one of the greatest things ever, they'd be marketing it a lot more. Like, think of like X-Men 97. Like, the marketing for that was very strong, I felt. The trailers for it were going retro. They were really hammering home the fact this was the new X-Men animated show. I think I'm not expecting it to be terrible, but I do think it's probably going to be very middle of the road. I think if it was going to be something special, they'd be making it known that it was coming out.
I don't disagree with you. I think in terms of quality, it could go either way. Where I could see it being this very underrated gem, this thing, Marvel's. I really enjoyed Echo, and they just kind of put Echo on in January. They're like, don't worry about it. It's out already, whatever.
They were worried about Echo though internally, weren't they?
Yeah.
I remember hearing that, where they were like, they weren't sure about Echo. That's why they dropped it all at once. They were like, they weren't expecting it to do super well.
No, and I don't think they ever finished with it. Like, they.
Oh yeah, it was one episode was cut or something.
Yeah, from what I heard, they wanted like 8 episodes. They got like 5, so it was
wow, that was way more than I thought got cut.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know what to expect. I hope what I'll say. I actually think maybe X-Men 97 maybe fucked the show over a little bit though.
Oh yeah,
because as soon as that show aired, nobody cared about the show. Everyone wanted X-Men 98. Everyone was like, no, just bring back the old Spider-Man show. Like, bring that show back.
Yes, I did see that. This is here.
And I honestly think they probably would have announced it already if this show wasn't a thing. If they didn't already have a new Spider-Man animated show coming out.
I want to get this out,
Yeah, of course, because everyone loved the new X-Men show. Like, it did very well for them, and I think, I don't know, I think maybe they're waiting just to get the show out, and then maybe a couple years after that, they'll be like, okay, now it's coming out. But this is a 2-season show. This is like I think season 2 is already.
Disney Plus loves to do that. Announce begin a show and have 2 seasons come out, and the second season's like 3 years after the first season or something like that, and then that's it. It's just a 2-season show. I feel like that's so weird. It's a weird way to do TV. Because even Daredevil, isn't Born Again like, it was originally 1 big season, but now it's like 2 smaller seasons or something.
Yeah, and apparently season 2 is not filmed for that. I was under the impression season 2 was done for Daredevil, but no, they haven't started on that yet, apparently.
Yeah, I think they just redid a lot of the scripts or something.
Mm-hmm. In fairness to this one, though, that is a lot. That is really how animated shows are structured, though. Like normally they order 2 seasons at once, and then they run by it because it takes so long to make the animated show. So they work on both seasons at once, and then after the 2, they're like, okay, we should re-evaluate if we want to continue or not. But I hope it's good. I've been waiting. I want it to be good. I don't like. Again, I've been like a defender of the show because I think people are already writing it off because it's not. Spider-Man the anime series, or it's not like spectacular. Like it's
people love those old shows,
and they are good shows from like what I've seen. But like it's tough because I am a defender of trying new things, and that's what the show looks to be doing.
Is there a reason why Tom Holland's not voicing Peter? Because I know they got Charlie back for Daredevil, but like, is there a reason why they don't have Tom back for Peter?
I mean, it could be a rights thing because, like, I know there's like an they're not allowed. I don't think they're allowed to use like Tom Holland's Peter in like Disney Plus.
Oh, outside like Sony associated things.
Like they wanted him for She-Hulk, and they said no, you're not. You can't use him.
That's so crazy because I feel like you got to put his face on things. Like he's popular. Use him.
Apparently, they're trying to get him for Daredevil season 2, and I hope I really want that to happen. Like I think that'd be very cool, especially if Spider-Man 4 is a Daredevil-centered movie. I hope it is. Like, I think that'd be a cool way to, I don't know. But also, it isn't canon anymore, right? So it is.
Yeah. It's an MCU if Norman Osborn was there instead of Tony Stark, is what I heard.
Right.
Where it's like it's an alternate universe where things are very similar but slightly different.
Which I think is smart. Like, I think this MCU canon is just too hard to play in the prequel of it all, just like 100%. What they're allowed to do. So I think. Like, very similar to, like, a Superman Lois situation. I think they're going to have a lot more fun while it's out on its own. And at least they did it right, where it's not, like, halfway through, like, oh, now it's not canon. Now we're doing our own thing. You know what I mean?
Like, you're the only hero on this Earth, Peter. I've known lots of Earths, and you're the only one with us. So, like, thanks, man. We appreciate that. We appreciate that a
lot. The last thing I kind of wanted to talk about, and this isn't necessarily a news story, but there's been a lot of not leaks, but rumors around this, and I kind of wanted to talk about this just as a whole, because I do think it's going to be a big thing over these next couple of years. The Young Avengers. Oh, yes. Let's talk about this.
What are they called? The Champions now or something?
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about, because there's been a lot of these, Daniel RPJ or whatever, like he's going on here saying stuff, and people are freaking out and all these kind of things. First of all, are you excited at all for like this potential team, whatever their name is going to be, the lineup that we've seen? Do you have any anticipation for that?
No, because it's taking so long to see anything from any of them.
Okay.
Like, the fact that we've seen Kate Bishop once outside of Hawkeye, and it was a super brief scene at the end of the Marvels. The fact that we've not seen this version of Cassie since Ant-Man and the Wasp 3. We're going to see Riri and Ironheart, and Ironheart looks great. And then America we haven't seen outside of Doctor Strange 2. There's... Because they're also being so weird about the lineup. Like, okay, so I guess we can officially get from this that it's 100% Riri, Cassie, America, Kamala, and Kate. Like, those are the 5 official ones, I guess, and then anybody else is like a maybe not sort of thing.
Right.
But I don't know. I think there needs to just be some sort of push to actually have these characters appear alongside each other, because at the moment it's like. It's just the same problem I had with Phase 4 and Phase 5 so far, where it's a lot of, you're going to see this thing eventually, so get hyped for whenever it does happen.
I agree. I think, like, I am, like I'm excited for the concept of it. Like, I'm always a huge fan. Characters meeting each other, characters crossing over. I think that's what makes the MCU so special. And I've liked pretty much all these characters. Like, I know a lot of people have.
Yeah, I think they're all pretty good, yeah.
Like, say what you want about Phase 4 and Phase 5. I think their strongest thing has been introducing great new characters that I want to see alongside of each other. This is why I'm excited for Doomsday. Like, obviously, there's a lot of things surrounding that I'm not excited for, but I'm excited to see all these characters finally work together. What we've been waiting for now, what is almost 8 years at this point? Like, it's crazy. So I'm very excited for this. But I want to talk about, because there's been a lot of rumors. Again, none of this is confirmed. We're just kind of, if these are things to happen, what our thoughts would be. There's been a lot of rumors of like what the name is going to be, because originally it was going to be Young Avengers. That's what we heard.
They don't want to dilute the brand or something, is what I heard, by using the Avengers name.
That's what they said. Yeah, which I can understand that to an extent. Like, I think the Avengers are a very popular brand. Like, I feel like a very sacred brand. And I actually think I understand them only wanting to use it every once in a blue moon. Because I do feel like if you have an Avengers movie every year, every 2 years, it's going to get like, okay, you need to slow down. You know what I mean? But I want to talk about, like, I feel like there's no pleasing people with this series or with this project, because when it was Young Avengers, people were pissed because it's like, no, these aren't the Young Avengers. These characters aren't in these places. Call it the Champions. And they were,
also,
and now we're like,
Bishop, like 5 or 6 years older than everyone else or something.
Mm-hmm. She is, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, with Champions, when they said, okay, maybe it's Champions, everyone's like, but this is not the roster of the Champions. You cannot call this Champions. And then I'm like, okay, fine. How about we just give it a new name? Just get, like, this is a new roster of characters. Give it a new team, a new name.
Marvels.
And then it's like, but no, because it's not comic accurate. Like, we want stuff from the comics. And it's just like, I feel like there is no winning with this project. Like, I feel like no matter what direction they take with this team, I feel like there's going to be hatred within the fan base for it, which I think is 100%. Unfortunate. What would your thoughts be? Do you think this should be a movie or a TV show? Because that's been another rumor, is apparently now it's going to be a TV show instead of a movie.
I think just based off of the amount of characters they'll be bringing together for the first time, I think a TV show is probably better. Because if you think of, like, Avengers 1, by that point, a lot of those characters had already interacted. Like, you'd had Clint already in Thor 1 with Thor. You had Natasha already in Iron Man 2. I think just also because, like, outside of Kamala, none of these characters have appeared in more than one project yet. So we have not spent a lot of time with any of these characters outside of her. Also because she had a whole TV show centered just around her. Like, even with Kate, she had a TV show, but it was still sharing that with Clint. Whereas Kamala's entire show was about her, and then she had a big part in the Marvels. So I think everyone else besides her has not had nearly enough time to develop as characters yet. I guess Cassie had as well, but it's weird to talk about Cassie because she got recast, and the other versions of her were, like, much younger. And now, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I think it should be a TV show because I think there's a lot to deal with, that even the first and second Avengers movies didn't have to deal with, like, in terms of setup.
Yeah, I would love it to be a TV show if they, like, do it correctly. Like, I think it could be this cool, like, Defenders situation where it's like all these characters that mainly came from the TV side of things. Like, Kate Bishop came from TV, Miss Marvel, Ironheart didn't come from TV, but she will have got a TV show at that point. You know, Billy and Tommy will have come from 2 TV shows. Like, I feel like even if you dive into, like, Hulkling, he appeared on, or, I mean, not Hulkling, Scar, right?
Scar,
he appeared in She-Hulk. Like, these are mostly TV characters, so I would be very down for it. I also think if you put a movie called Young Avengers in theaters, though, that's like a moneymaker. Like, people, if like it or not, I think people are going to show up for it because it's Avengers. I do think that. So yeah, no, I'm down for TV if doing it right. I hope it's also, like, if you do it, commit multi-season show. Like, give it the budget, give it a multi-season run. Like, I don't want this to just be some 6-episode thing that doesn't have enough time to breathe. Like, yeah, we'll see. And yeah, I mean, like, a TV show I think would be hard to, like, unless they're already established, because I've pitched the idea of, like, have them form in Avengers, like the mainstream Avengers movie, and then they go off on their own adventures. Use it as like a spin-off, if you will.
That was a theory I had, that, like, what if one of the films between the 2 Avengers films was like we had Avengers Doomsday, then we have Spider-Man 4, then whatever the untitled film is ended up being like Young Avengers, and it was them dealing with the fact all of the main Avengers are gone now, and then we come back for Avengers Secret Wars a year later.
That'd be cool. That'd be nice. I think that's probably going to be Doctor Strange, but it'd be fun.
It would make sense, yeah, because he's been gone.
But no, I mean, that would be cool. This, like, Young Avengers-esque thing where it's like, oh, the heroes are gone, now we have to find them, or, you know, save them, or do something to kind of set up where they've kind of been, kind of thing. So that'd be cool.
that would be like a thing as well. I think maybe if you're bringing them in, you tag them onto a different solo characters film. Like, not saying it is Doctor Strange 3, but if, like, you're like Doctor Strange and the Young Avengers is the name of the film, where it's like Strange has to, all the heroes are gone, Strange needs help, he goes looking for the sidekicks and the children of the other heroes to help him find the main Avengers. and then we tie into Secret Wars after that.
Sure. And American being involved would make sense too, because she's connected to Strange at this point. So, and Wong, I guess, because she's at like the academy, right? So she's at the little whatever. Yeah, no, I hope
Hermitage, is that what they call it?
Yeah, I think so. I hope it comes to be. I hope, you know, like we just had Agatha, which I quite enjoyed that show, and I liked what they did with Wiccan.
I did too.
I feel like now that show is over, like now, like I feel like that was one of the big things they were waiting for, is that show, and now that Ironheart has a official date, and like what we're looking at 6 months from now, we'll have that show finally. So I feel like now they're like, okay, what are we doing with this? Like, we finally need to set at least something up, even if it is in Avengers. We have to start writing them into the movie or whatever. So,
do you think there's a reason Ironheart is that they filmed it and waited to release it? Like, do you think it's just it had some stuff in it that they needed to wait for a certain project to come out beforehand, or do you think it's a quality issue?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I said for a while I thought it was Agatha. Like, I thought they wanted Agatha to come out first or whatever. Maybe there is some Young Avengers tie-in at the end or whatever. Which, I mean, that's also a possibility if they wanted to, like end of Ironheart or whatever. There's like a post-credit scene or something. What comes out the next couple? Like I'm trying to think. It could also be they didn't know what they were doing with Armored Wars, because I feel like that show maybe had some
a movie or a show or whatever they were doing. It's a movie now for sure, isn't it? They confirm
it is, but now they've also said they don't even know if it's happening. They're like, every other day they tell us something different.
We need Armor Wars, because I feel like you can't just gloss over the fact that Rhodey's been a Skrull for the past 5 or 6 years. You know, like you need to address that. Like, that's a big deal, I feel like, you know, especially if you want Rhodey to be a big part of the MCU going forward.
Yeah, I think with the announcement of Downey back, which again, we've talked about that in the past. I have my opinions on that, if you like it or not, but like Rhodey is either going to be non-existent in that story, or he has to be like one of the main characters, because I feel like I think he should be like everything they're saying they want him to be, what Peter to be, I want that to be Rhodey. I want Rhodey to be like,
it should be Rhodey.
I think especially with how you ended his character being like, I missed his death, I wasn't there when he needed me most, and now there's an evil version of him here, and how do I process that grief? You know what I mean? Like, that's such a cool story. And like Secret Invasion, did not love it, right? I think it's one of the worst MC projects of all time. But like, I like the ending. I do like what they did there with that character. Like, I thought that was a fun way to end the show. So yeah, I don't know.
This is just a problem with so many different MCU projects and so long, like, between them all, you know, because like it would have been a big deal if there wasn't so many projects coming out for us to be waiting a while to get follow-ups to things. But it's the fact that you've got 10 projects between follow-ups sometimes that it makes it feel like it's longer than it is.
I'm excited. I don't think we've talked about this yet, but I'm like, obviously next year's gonna be crazy for Marvel stuff. Like, they're like, next year is the year where they're getting quite literally everything out, and I'm excited for post that, because I feel like that's when like the Bob Iger stuff is really going to set in and be like, okay, 2 movies a year, 3 shows, you know, whatever.
We'll see what we're waiting for.
I think post, as much as I've enjoyed elements of the Multiverse Saga, I think the Mutant Saga is going to be a lot, unless there's another world event that puts things off the rail again, should be a much cleaner saga. I think there's going to be a much more... I think what they're doing, actually, I think is very smart, is I think they're going to dedicate more to teams, which I think is going to let them do more character storylines within a project. So like X-Men and Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four and, you know, stuff like that. You know, like the Young Avengers and stuff like that, where it's like all these, like, we're doing more, all these characters like we were doing previously, but now they're connected to each other and they feel like it's a more connected universe, which I think is smart.
I agree.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to move into our Walking Dead series rankings. At this point, there are 7 Walking Dead shows. I've seen 6 out of the 7. You've seen all 7, right?
I've seen all 7.
Cool.
Before I go in, main show is that important? I haven't seen
no, that's not important. You could just skip it.
I'll just skip
it. I do want to ask you though, before this wasn't a news story or anything, but they did say they're wanting to make new Walking Dead shows recently. Like, I think one of the, I don't know who it was, but someone was like, yeah, we're working on some stuff.
Yeah,
some with characters you know.
Scott Temple. think you said it.
That's it. Yeah, it was like some characters that you know, some that you don't know. We're doing interesting stuff with it. We're doing, changing the status quo a little bit. Is there spin-offs that you would like to see? Or are there characters that you want to see get them?
There's two that I want to see. I want to see Aaron and Gabriel. I want them getting their own spin-off, similar to Daryl and Carol and Dead City with Negan and Maggie. I want Aaron and Gabriel because they're the coolest duo in the whole franchise. And the other thing I want to see is one set in a different country. I know Daryl is set in Paris and we're going to Spain next year, but I want another one set in a different country. Like, I think getting like one set in I don't know, Japan, Australia, like an African country, something like that. Like, I think getting ones like spread across the world would be really cool. Like, to really get an idea of what is going on across the world.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I think that like the Aaron and Gabriel one, 100%, and then I'd probably do another one that is starting the future of the, like, I do feel like if you want this franchise to continue, you need something. I haven't seen a show, but what I assume like Fear the Walking Dead was at first, where it's like new set of characters that we're following. I think, we have
opinions on that show.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that soon. Like, we have Dead City and like The Ones Who Lived and Daryl Dixon. Those are all characters that we've been following for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
If you want this universe to continue, I feel like you need some new blood in the franchise. And I feel like they've been trying to, like, though, like the World Beyond tried that and people didn't like it, and Tales tried that and to an extent, and that also doesn't seem like it's getting another season. So it's like,
well, did you see the episode of Tales with the actor who plays A-Train? Was that one of the ones you watched?
I think that's the one I was up next. I think that's episode 5. I've seen the first 4.
Because that episode is apparently set like 50 years into the apocalypse.
Oh, good lord.
Yeah. It's set something crazy far ahead. I remember everybody being like freaking out over that at the time, being like, wow, okay, so the world is still shit in 50 years.
Okay. In fairness, though, I feel like Tales could be like non-canon if they wanted it to be, right?
Yeah, they could be like alternate universe or something like that.
100%. And there's one there. I was like, this doesn't feel like, this feels different than anything in the Walking Dead. Yeah, that was the one. I was like, we'll talk about it once we get there. We'll talk about it.
I'm just double checking the years like on that episode to make sure I'm not like spreading misinformation.
That's actually crazy if that's the case. Because like we'll talk about it when we get there, but that was one of my issues with Dead City. I was like, I don't know if I like it being set, 15 years in the future or whatever. Like, I think that's kind of dumb.
It might actually be the episode after that. Okay, wait, I'm way off on the years then. The Walking Dead wiki says it's 15 years in, not 50 years. But even 15 years is... 15 years would... Well, I guess Dead City would still be the furthest along then.
How long is Dead City again?
Dead City is like 2027, so it would have been 17 years, I think, in.
Okay.
Which is crazy.
I mean, at this point, do you think they just time jump the whole universe at this point? Like, do you think we just like...
I feel like they probably have to. I feel like everything needs to jump to around whatever the furthest ahead project is.
Yeah.
So I feel like if Dead City is 17 years in the future, you gotta just have everything be 17 years in the future.
Yeah.
Because it's really ambiguous where Daryl Dixon is.
I guess they could just like endgame it, or just have like the next couple seasons of Daryl like just do their thing, and then like you just catch up to Dead City slowly over the next couple years, and that's when you start crossing over stuff. But
they better cross over eventually. We're waiting on that. Like, I don't know what the end goal here is for the franchise. I really felt like The Ones Who Live was the end goal. Like, that's the final thing you go to. Dead City and Daryl Dixon eventually connect to that or something like that. But I don't know. Like, now that that's out the way, I don't know what the hell we're doing.
Yeah, I'm curious because what's the next show? Is that going to be Dead City's the next show? Right?
Dead City season 2, and then Daryl Dixon season 3 after that. And I don't think we have anything else confirmed besides those. I don't think Dead City has been renewed yet.
So it's probably those two, and then I would imagine maybe they'll try and get something filmed to go after that or whatever. Okay, let's talk about our first show here, which is Fear the Walking Dead. I was very careful when I was looking up images here. I was like, all right, don't look. This one doesn't have spoilers. Okay, this one's good.
That's one of the season 1 posters, I think.
Okay, cool. Which is a very fun poster. I actually really like this poster. This is sick, actually.
Season 1 is so cool, man. Like, it's got problems, but it's like 6 episodes, and it's like, I'll try to be like very vague on the spoilers, but
Okay.
like there's at one point one of their, what do you call like housing estates over there? Is it like it's like areas of just whole houses, like normal houses together? That they called suburbs? Is that just what they call them?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. We're like the whatever the suburb is that the Clark family live in, which is the main characters. A military group basically takes over it and puts like fences up around the whole suburb and is like keeping everybody like in the area, being like, don't leave the area or whatever. And there's bits where characters are just like sitting on the rooftops of their houses, and you're just seeing like a plane crash, or you're seeing like explosions in the distance, and the military is like, remain calm, nothing is going wrong, like you're all fine. And everyone's like, what are we supposed to do here? And it's things like that Fear the Walking Dead does so well. There is a moment in season 3 where one of the characters like accidentally gets in touch with the last person up on the International Space Station, and they're having a conversation together, and the person's like, there's like a Russian cosmonaut up on the International Space Station, and he's like, yeah, I haven't had contact with anybody in months, like what's going on down there? And the character Victor Strand, Euphoria, Coleman Domingo, is that his name, the actor's name?
I think, yeah.
And he's just like, yeah, man, you might be safer up there, like things are gone to shit down here. And like they're just having a drink together over the radio. And it's like Fear the Walking Dead seasons 1 through 3 is nonstop this sort of stuff, where it's the coolest world building, the kind of things that the main show never tried to do. The main show always tried to keep it very vague on what's happening around the world, focus on the characters themselves. But then Fear the Walking Dead is about like what is actually going on, like how bad is the world, how bad is everything going to shit here? Because season 2 then is set in Mexico, so it's like the characters traveling down there, and then they end up having to travel back up. I like. Will I say where I have this placed?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
I have it in second place because I think seasons 1 through 3 are better than anything else, like outside of the main show. I think I would watch seasons 1 through 3 over and over and over again before rewatching any of the other shows. And then in season 4, they have some showrunner changes. The person who was in charge had a 7-season plan where he was like, his whole goal was that Fear the Walking Dead was going to be about essentially the rise of a villain group, the kind of group that Rick's group would, if they came across, they would have to fight and kill, sort of thing. And like he was describing it as this like Shakespearean tale of like the family slowly falling apart and becoming enemies to each other, where it's like you have Madison, who's the mother, and then like Nick and Alicia, who are the son and daughter, and how like the whole family would eventually have to fight each other and kill each other and be part of different groups and stuff like that. And that was his whole 7-season goal. But then he got fired after season 3, and then they brought in new people and were like, okay, we want this to connect to the main show, get Morgan over here. And it was like,
was there a reason that they were fired? Was it like anything controversial, or?
I don't actually remember. I think it was just AMC kept telling him no on certain ideas, and like eventually he was just like, okay, either fire me or let me stick around. But I just remember his ideas were just so cool that like, because season 3 is one of the best seasons of TV I've ever seen in my life, and it was supposed to just get better and better and better. And then the following seasons are just a lot of random things happening. Characters will show up and they'll be really cool, and then they'll be gone within like an episode, and you'll be like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That's my rant about Fear. It's the Flash of the Walking Dead universe, where it's like it's simultaneously got some of the best stuff you've seen, followed up by some of the worst stuff you've seen.
No, that's totally fair. Like from every time that you describe it, like you make me want to see it, and then you'll also not want make me want to see it just because in terms of
you could stop after season 3 if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'm like a completionist at this point though. Like I want to see, like I want to, like I've made it this far. What, I'm like 150 episodes into this universe. I may as well commit eventually. Yeah. But like, No, I mean, like in terms of like a spinoff and stuff like that, though, like it does kind of feel like a little bit of what I've kind of been craving, where it's like I just want to follow new characters in this world and see what
The new characters are really good.
I'm
They're
excited for
really
that. And like this takes place at like the very start of the apocalypse, right? Like it's
Yeah,
kind of
so it starts like I think the first 3 seasons all take place while Rick is in his coma. And
oh
then
wow, okay,
there's a time jump after season 3, and then it lines up with whenever Walking Dead season 8 ended, or season 8
okay,
began.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, very cool. And like there are characters that I do like from the main show, or I guess did like from the main show in here as well. So like there is definitely that motivation as well. Like I know, like I do like Morgan sometimes. Like obviously he's an up and down character for me, but like I do love him when he's good. And I also like, I know he's in it. What's his face from the had beef with Daryl? What's his
Dwight.
name? Dwight. I also like Dwight, so like that's a bit of a motivation as well. I know what's her face from the 100 that I kind of want to see as well.
From the 100?
Isn't she from the 100? She's part of like Tree Crew, right?
Oh,
No,
Alicia.
Alexa,
Yeah,
right?
Alicia. Yeah, Alicia. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's the main daughter. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's exciting. It is my number 7 though, obviously because it's the only one on this list I haven't seen.
You hate it. You've
No,
not
it's
even
the
seen it,
worst
and you
one.
hate it.
I hate it. How dare it? But yeah, no. Good show, I assume. Let's move on to
When
our
it's
next
good,
one.
it's so good. When it's good, you're like, all right, so this is just the peak, like peak television. Like when it comes to zombie stuff, I don't think there's a better any zombie thing than Fear the Walking Dead season 3.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's so long. Like I feel like if it was shorter a little bit, I'd be like, okay, I'll commit to it. It just right now it's so hard to me to commit to like a 7-season show that I hear isn't
It's 8
always
seasons.
good. Yeah, it's 7, right?
No, it's 8 seasons. Yeah.
It's 8. Okay.
Yeah. But I will say that like the first 3 seasons, no, it gets to 16 episodes pretty quick actually. I thought the first 3 seasons were like 13 episodes, but like season 1 is 6, season 2 is 15, and then every other season is 16, I think.
Sure.
It is a long show.
But I mean, good. I mean that's a good thing because I feel like most of these are short. Like all these have been like outside of the main show and this one, like they're all short shows up until this point. Yeah. Alrighty. Moving into the next. I'm pretty sure this was the first like proper spin-off featuring another character. I could be wrong. And that's Walking Dead: The Dead City, right? This was the first one post the show ending, right? Or like the main show ending?
Did this or Daryl come out first? I for some reason I had it in my head that Daryl came out first, but I might be wrong. Dead City.
I watched this one before Daryl, so I think it's this one, but maybe I watched them out of order.
Dixon. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm off. Yeah, Daryl was September and Dead City was June.
Okay, cool. This one, I feel like you might like this one more than I like.
I think I like this one more than most of the Walking Dead fans do. I've seen a lot of people not like this show at all.
Okay, what's your kind of opinions on it?
I just think it's visually a very different show. Like Daryl Dixon, feels like it has the same look to it as the main show a lot of the time. I feel like, but I think Dead City, it feels like the cameras are newer. It feels like the direction and the visual, like it gets stylistic with some of its stuff. Like there's that whole bit in the final episode where they're cutting between all the faces, but I feel like is very different than visually than anything we see in the main show. I've always been a fan of both Maggie and Negan as characters, like not necessarily together, but just like in general, the two characters I think are two of the more like Maggie is never a character I felt like I was frustrated with on the main show the same way I would be with like a lot of the other characters, you know. I feel like she always was pretty consistent, and then Negan's just a fun guy to watch, you know, like Jeffrey Dean Morgan just plays that so well. And the guy, the Croat, was that what they called him because he was Croatian, the villain who was a part of the Saviors, and also we got to see Stephen Ogg as, what was his name, this Simon. Got to see him come back for a little bit briefly.
That was cool.
No, yeah, I thought Dead City was a really enjoyable show. Like, I don't think it's any of the best written stuff in the Walking Dead universe, but I was into it. You know, I was enjoying my time with the show.
Yeah, I liked most of this show, actually. Like, I've sat with it a little bit. I first watched it, I wasn't really sure. I think my biggest issue with the show is I felt like we were treading very similar ground in terms of the Negan and Maggie stuff, and I felt that was frustrating to me, especially when you end the show being like, we have a truce. Like, I will never forgive you, but I must, for the sake of me, and for the sake of my son, and for a show that's supposed to take place 15 years later, them still doing the same shit, them still having the same circle over and over. And I think whoever's idea was to pair these two together is genius, because I think that's a great pitch, being like, oh, like they're, like their dynamic, I do think is really fun. Like, I'm totally okay with them bickering, them going back and forth, but I think kind of doing the same thing we did with them here that we did in the last 3 seasons of or 2 or whatever season it was of The Walking Dead was frustrating to me. Maggie was pretty frustrating to me in this one, especially. Not that she's not valid, because of course she's valid. This man killed her husband, but I think, like, as an audience, it's like, all right, we get it. Like, it's not the most enjoyable thing to watch to me. That being said, though, I feel like you could literally do anything with Negan. I'd be like, yeah, man, because he's such...
Yeah, he's just fun to watch.
Like, he's most, like...
He takes over the screen.
Mm-hmm. Which I almost think is maybe even a disservice to Maggie in some areas, because it's like, I think he overshadows Maggie in quite literally every scene. Like, I feel like if it was just Maggie doing her thing out there, as much as I love Negan, I think he makes the show. I feel like Maggie doesn't almost get the service that she deserves in this first season. Hopefully that gets improved in the second. Hopefully they give her more outside of, oh, Negan, I hate him kind of thing. Like, if they actually are able to finally work together and, have, like, we don't like this, but we have to commit to doing this to save whatever this is going to be. I think that's really cool. And I agree with everything you said in terms of, like, visually. I think it's one of the best looking Walking Dead shows. I really appreciate in terms of, like, taking these characters from the main show and putting them in new locations, I think is one of the coolest things of the spinoff. And I think this is the one that commits to that the most. They put them in new places. You have these very engaging sets like that. I don't know if it's the finale or if it's the penultimate, but it's like that giant walker where it's like all the different walkers like intertwined together in this giant monster.
That's crazy.
One of the coolest things I think the show has done. Like, that is really, really cool looking. There were new characters that I actually thought were pretty fun for the most part. I guess still not super memorable, but, like, I think comparatively to, like, Daryl Dixon and some of the other ones where I'm like, I don't care about some of these other characters.
No, I agree. I think the side characters in Dead City were more enjoyable than the side characters in Daryl Dixon, for sure.
Yeah. I actually think there's a big issue in the universe right now in terms of, like, any fun characters that we have either are not memorable or get killed off instantly, and I think that's frustrating. Like, especially in, like, Ones Who Lived had several new characters, so I'm like, I really like these guys. I like, that's how you, I think, create the future of the universe, is introducing these new characters via characters that we love, and then they die, and it's like, well, all right, there goes them.
That's not to rag on Fear the Walking Dead again, but Fear the Walking Dead introduces a character in season 4 that is played by one of my favorite actors of all time, and he is so fun to watch. And despite everything else in season 4 being really bad, he is just so good. And he plays the exact kind of character that I love to watch, where it's like, I'll watch movies where it's just a character like this sort of thing, and they get rid of him, and it was the only character in the show I cared about. And I was like, cool. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Absolutely. Where would you put Dead City on your ranking?
Let me do a check. I have it at 5.
Whoa. Okay, that's interesting. Because I think you like it more than I do, but I have it higher than you do.
Oh, really?
I have it number 4. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
But although that makes sense because I haven't seen Fear, so I guess
so Fear pushes it down for me.
That actually makes sense. So we probably feel about it pretty similar, and I'm excited. Like, do we have a date for season 2 yet? Like, I know it's next year, but do we have like a?
Was it like March? They said, like, roughly, which would have been around when Ones Who Live started. Spring. They said spring 2025. So probably like May or March, April-ish.
Cool. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see. I think mainly for Negan, because I am just excited to get more Negan stuff. But and also you already talked about it, but I actually think is the show gave us one of the best Walking Dead villains in a long time.
Yeah, no, he was really fun to watch. I think like tying him back to the Saviors was really good as well.
I thought that was great. Like, I loved having a villain. Like, I loved like Negan's consequences with what he was doing in those early seasons finally come back to haunt him and being like, "Oh, I created a monster. Like, I did this."
That was so good because like I see it's been a while since I've seen it. I haven't seen it since it aired, but wasn't like the whole point of the reason why he was gone and off in New York now was because like despite how insane the Saviors are, like this guy was inspired by Negan to be like the worst of the worst, and he became just too crazy that they had to kick him out because he was too much of an insane guy, like too villainous. Like that's so interesting. Like despite the stuff Negan was doing, this guy was the worst, and he had to get rid of him.
Yeah, and I think it's actually really cool because it's like obviously Negan did terrible things, but like I always kind of saw it as like almost an act in some ways, where like he was putting on this performance because this is what he thought needed to be done. Like he needed to push people in a direction. This wasn't an act for this guy. This was like, no, like I'm fully drinking the Kool-Aid that you're giving me, and I fully get what you're doing, and wanting to like commit and go even further than Negan, I think is really cool. Like that's such a good idea. And he didn't die, right? At the end, he's still around, right?
I think he's still around. Yeah, because there was that.
There's a girl at the end.
The girl at the end. Yeah, she came up as well. I don't know if she was like taking over as the villain. See, I need to rewatch a lot of these shows because I definitely like a lot of them started to blend together for me, like in terms of what was happening with the newer characters. Let me just double check here. Okay, yeah, he delivered Negan to her, and that she's still there.
Yeah, and then there's something with Herschel Jr., right? Where it's
like, where like he's held captive or whatever.
Yeah, there's something with that as well. Yeah, I'm excited for more. I hope we see more at some point. Okay, The Walking Dead: The World Beyond. This is where I'm going to lose people. I feel this is where I'm going to lose some people.
You love this one, don't you? Big fan of it.
I kind of did actually really like it.
I like season 2.
That's the thing. I like season 1. I didn't like season 2.
That's interesting.
Which, like, I get it. Like, I 100% get why people don't like it. Like, it's very like not The Walking Dead at all. Like, and the reasons I like this show are completely contrast to what people like within the world of The Walking Dead. And I totally understand that. But what was your thoughts on World Beyond?
To be honest, I was giving World Beyond a pass because for a lot of it, because I felt like a lot of the stuff was gonna be paid off in The Ones Who Live. I thought a lot of the characters and a lot of the stuff they were doing and a lot of stuff they were focusing on was going to be a lot better with the hindsight of what The Ones Who Lived did. Now, in respect to Daryl Dixon, season 2 of Daryl Dixon actually did pick up some pieces from World Beyond in a pretty interesting way that I was pretty happy with. But The Ones Who Live retroactively made World Beyond worse for me, where I was like, all of these characters that World Beyond ends with still alive. The big villain that World Beyond is hyping up for 2 seasons is like barely a part of Ones Who Live. I don't know. It just, I have it in 6th place. And like, if the 7th show wasn't the 7th show, then this would easily be my least favorite show in the franchise. I think season 1 felt so different to anything else in the franchise. Like, it didn't feel like a traditional Walking Dead show. It felt like they were trying to bring a new fan base on board with the shows, which at that point, you're like, what? They were 12 years into The Walking Dead at this point, and they were trying to bring in new fans. Seemed pretty crazy. Season 2 was cool, introduced a lot of interesting characters. We had Davis from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He was pretty cool. That stuff. Especially since we had Piper in the main show. So that was cool to have both of them in there. But yeah, I don't know. I think World Beyond, it had a lot of cool ideas. but when the payoff to all their setup goes nowhere, it makes it a little hard for me to care about the show in hindsight.
Mm-hmm. That's all fair. And again, I think like I'm thinking why you dislike it is again maybe why I like it, or like why a lot of people dislike it is why I like it, because I am a big fan of like the teen drama kind of stories, and like I really liked the element. I think that's why I liked for season 1 so much of like what is it like growing up as a teenager in the apocalypse. I think that's a really fun idea. I think
it's a good concept.
That's what it's a really cool, like that's what I loved the stuff in like season 9 of like The Walking Dead with like in season 10 where like we're starting to see kids of the characters who have been following for so many years grow up, and it's like what does that look like for their mental health and how they appreciate the earth. Like they're all growing up in the perspective that well we could go at any time, like this, like there's not necessarily a future for us. And I don't know, I had a lot of fun with that first season. Like I really enjoyed these new characters that we were introducing. I was really enjoying the journey that we're taking these characters. I think season 2 I think I didn't like season 2 as much because I think they focused a lot more on the setting up of the world beyond and stuff like that, and they don't get, like you said, they don't go anywhere, and it felt like they were sacrificing this new show they were making just to set up another show that they don't set up. And I would have much preferred it was just a show about these characters that were just trying to figure out where their place in the world and all these fun things are. And I feel like again some of that was sacrificed a little bit, not to say some of that season 2 stuff wasn't good, because I do think it was. I just think 2 to me felt a little I can't say it's slower, I guess, because it's not slower, but like a little less interesting to me, I guess.
It's focusing more on the stuff you don't like, which is fair.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I
agree though. I think despite me not liking the show in general, and like I think it would have been a much stronger show had they just focused on these teen characters and developing them without the need to hype up the CRM and Jadis and Beale and all that stuff. So I agree.
Yeah, I will say this is probably the most I've liked Jadis within within this universe. Like, never liked her in the main show. Did not like her in The Ones Who Lived. And then here I was like, actually, I kind of like her as like the big, like the actual big bad. Like she's this like unknown force kind of coming in here, you know, and like there's almost this like Avengers like Infinity War thing where it's like, yes, I am killing these people, but it's for your future. And I think like, okay, like I kind of like that idea. There's some fun stuff there. But yeah, I mean, I also understand why people don't like it. Like again, like I'm okay keeping this as my hot take of like this being the one that I quite enjoyed. And also like it's a little bit of a breath of fresh air for like this universe. That's very
it was needed at a time because Walking Dead was in like season 10, I think, when this started. So like Walking Dead was getting a bit stale again for people. So this was definitely that new sort of thing.
Sure. I would have been down for more. I'll be honest. Like I wanted to see. Like, again, it didn't feel like these characters were wrapped up. It felt like their journeys were kind of just getting started. And they're like, okay, it's time to go now. And it's like, all right, man, I guess. Like,
I was so surprised none of them showed up in Once You Live. You know, you send half the surviving characters out into after they are literally responsible for the stuff that is mentioned in the first scene of The Ones Who Live. And, like, they're sent out here and just none of them are referenced or show up. That's so weird to me. That's one of those things where it's like, I feel like The Walking Dead has no direction, because this is so obviously something that should be followed up on and referenced and tie into this other bigger thing, but there's just nothing. Right. I don't know. Makes me angry.
Where's your ranking of it?
6.
6.
Yeah, where's yours?
Mine's number 3.
3. Whoa.
I really like
it. You like it more than the main show, huh?
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll find out.
Alrighty. Next up, we have Tales of the Walking Dead. Now, again, this one's gonna be harder to rank. Of course, I haven't seen the last 2 episodes. Honestly, I'll probably finish it right after we get done here. I was planning on watching it all today. I just got lost in time today. But again, this is an anthology series, and anytime we rank anthology stuff and other stuff, it's really hard. It's like, where do we put What If in our MCU ranking? Where it's like, each episode is just kind of its own thing. Same with like The Boys and stuff like that. But what do you think of Tales?
I hate Tales of the Walking Dead. I don't know. It's weird to me because it's like I feel like the 6 stories they decided to tell were almost all extremely uninteresting in comparison to it's kind of like the what if conundrum, where like people are like, cool, what if is not telling a lot of the stories that you feel like would be obvious to tell with a premise like this. And I feel like Tales of the Walking Dead is similar, where now bear in mind I have not seen any of these episodes since they first released, which was like 2020, 2021 when it came out, something crazy like that. But it's well as that I was giving the show a pass at the time because I was like, okay, these 6 episodes aren't as interesting, but a season 2 will surely give them room to pick up more, to do some more interesting things. Maybe this is them just testing the waters, and then season 2 will actually give us some really cool stuff. And then they basically said that they were never making any more of the show.
That's disappointing.
And it's frustrating to me as well because I feel like there's so many webisodes of The Walking Dead where there's like the guy who plays Walker in Falcon Winter Soldier and Thunderbolts, it's Wyatt Russell. He is in one of the Walking Dead web series where he's one of the people who's in the hospital that Rick is in with the coma, and he's one of the people who's like closing the door and where it says "dead inside, don't open." One of the people there, and like that was a like I don't know how long it was like a half an hour like thing. That was really interesting and fun to watch, and I really enjoy that. There's one that's all about the machete with the red handle that Rick uses to kill Gareth in season 5, and you watch it go through all these different characters before it eventually ends up with Joe of the Claimers, the guy that Daryl works with in season 4 or whatever. That was a much more interesting story than anything Tales did. And it's like I have this problem where, I mean, Fear the Walking Dead has a lot of web series as well. They do one focused on the plane that I mentioned at the beginning, like set going over the characters in season 1. There's one in Fear the Walking Dead set in a submarine, and I feel like all of these stories were way more interesting than an entire show based around these stories, and that's just frustrating to me. That's not to say Tales of Walking Dead has nothing good, but I just think with I don't know, with the kind of stories they can tell, I feel like they took the most boring approach.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that thus far for the first 4. I can talk about the first 4, I guess, where I feel like and like to your point, like even look at those COVID episodes we got in season 10, where like that was some of my favorite back half of the Walking Dead stuff, where it's just like, hey, it's an hour of these 2 characters doing a thing. It's like, cool. Yeah, I'd like to see more of that. Like I feel like The Walking Dead is a universe that could so benefit from an anthology style series. There are quite literally millions upon millions of characters in the world where you could just like, yeah, it's this random family here. What's their story during the apocalypse? Like, it makes so much sense to me. And I actually enjoyed the 4 that I've seen so far, but I don't disagree where it's like there's not a lot to kind of grip you into this world too much, and I feel like they're having really fun experimenting with a lot of ideas here that I enjoy. Like the first one was like the Terry Crews episode, which was one I was looking forward to the most because I do just like Terry Crews. I like him in Brooklyn and stuff like that. So like I was excited for that, and that was just like Love and Monsters, but in 45 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like it's like, okay, like I think a lot of these felt like they wanted to be movies. It's like
they felt like kind of like short film kind of things where they were ideas that don't necessarily work in The Walking Dead, but they had an idea that they wanted to run with.
Yeah, it felt like there was cool stuff here. I was like, okay, this is the fun little zombie movie. Like this is okay, but they don't have enough time to flesh it out to the point where, like to have a first, a second, and a third act structure in 43 minutes, having to introduce all these characters and all these elements and all these things. So that was frustrating, even though it was a solid story. But second episode was like the Groundhog Day episode, which I fucking hated with all my heart and soul.
That's like, so dumb. Like, why are you doing Groundhog Day in a Walking Dead?
I didn't understand it. Like, I didn't understand why. Like, usually when there's a Groundhog Day, and not to say they all explain it, but I feel like typically when you do a Groundhog Day, it's either like in its own little world, or there's a science fiction-y reason within the world that explains it. It's like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or a Legends. There's been nothing sci-fi related, I feel like, in the world of The Walking Dead to suggest why this is happening to them.
I've seen people speculate it's like purgatory or something like that, like they're dead, and it's like, it's just, you know, it's like it's an artsy sort of thing where it's like the characters are in limbo between being alive or dead or whatever. But even that, when has the Walking Dead ever been? I guess other than like Rick having all those weird hallucinations of like Shane, Herschel, and Tara when he was dying. Well, when he almost died.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, I don't know. And I just, those characters are so unlikable in that show. And I guess that's, I get that's the point. Like, I get they're supposed to be like that, you know, she's supposed to be a Karen.
You know?
Yeah.
You don't want to watch that for 40 minutes.
No, I was checking every 5 minutes, like, good Lord, can this be over? I'm not enjoying this at all.
Yeah.
Episode 3 was like the Whisperers episode, which might have been my favorite in a weird way, which I hated because I actually I hate her character. She's one of my most
she's my least favorite villain, like main villain.
But what I really appreciated is that felt like they were like, hey, what's something like, how do we further a story from the Walking Dead world that made me wanting to ask? And I'll be honest, like, it kind of works. Like, it makes sense to be like, okay, how did she get to the situation where she was? Like, how did she get to that point? I also really like the whole like boat thing. Like, I'd watch like a series about people on a boat in the zombie apocalypse. Like, that's kind of fun. Like, I feel like there's like, you know, on a cruise, picking up new people, like that kind of makes like a sense. Like, I feel like that makes sense in terms of like survival, like going on a boat to avoid, because there's no zombies in the water, right? You know, there's not going to be much. So I feel like survival wise, it makes sense. So I was like, that's cool. And then I did the 4th episode, which was the like wilderness guy and the girl from like the observatory or whatever. I thought that was pretty okay too. I thought that was a solid one. I
think like that was my favorite of the 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah. I really liked the, like, I think it was a really fun story about like someone who's trying to learn about the walkers.
Yeah.
And trying to like, I feel like we've never done that in this universe. Because like, why do we do the things that we do? Like why do they do this? And
other than the guy who worked with the governor. Sorry. Other than the guy who worked with the governor in Woodbury.
Yeah.
I remember that like scientist guy. Who was like trying to see how long it would take them to come back and stuff like that. That's also something Fear the Walking Dead goes into. There's this whole sequence in Fear the Walking Dead where the military are like taking people, like living people, just throwing them into this shower room, killing them, and then waiting to see how long it takes them to reanimate. And it's so brutal and scary. But they're like writing it on the walls and stuff like that to take notes of how long it takes people to come back. And I think that's fascinating. So I think that's probably why this was my favorite episode.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like, I think they told a really good story about, like, the grief of the apocalypse and what it means to be alone, and, like, that disconnect with reality of, like, well, it's, like, our time's over, so it's time for, like this is their time, and, like, how, like, I think how the brain works in isolation. And I also appreciate how dark the episode was. Like, it's not a happy ending. Like, he comes in and he sees the girl dead as a zombie, and it's like, well, shit, right? Like, you know, like, it's not happy. Like, it's like, this is what 90% of the people on Earth would be experiencing in this world. It's not happy. It's like, not every group is like Rick, right? Where they can try and find a semblance of reality. Like, they failed in a way. So yeah, I mean, you said this was your least favorite show, right?
Yeah, it's number 7 for me.
Okay. It's my number 6. I think it probably is my least favorite one. There's the least amount I think I can grab onto. Although I'm very, like, I feel like a lot of my like of it is just like the concept of it. Like, I wanted, again, the concept of like an anthology series in this world is great. I wanted to see more, I guess.
No, I completely agree. It's like they could have gone more interesting with a lot of the stories than what they did. And they could have, like, it feels like a lot of the writers, they had stories that they knew wouldn't work in the main show. And they were like, how do we make them work here? Whereas I feel like it should have been just telling interesting human, you know, stories in this apocalypse.
Are there any stories you would have liked to have seen told in this world, or like in this show?
I mean, it's easy to go like, "Hey, I would have loved to see this character or this character." Like, I feel like you could have done a lot of stuff with some of the characters while Rick was still in the coma, sort of thing. Like, you could bring back,
Oh, that'd be
you
cool.
know, like Shane for an episode to see how he was in the immediate sort of weeks after everything happened. Um, like even Daryl and Merle, like because they had always talked about how they were planning on robbing the camp or whatever before Rick showed up. It's like you could kind of delve into that where it's like an episode focused on them planning on robbing the camp or something like that.
Sure.
And then the final scene is like Rick arriving at the camp or whatever. Um, I don't know. In terms of like new ideas, I guess other countries again. I'd love to see what's going on in like a Canadian, episode, a Russian episode, something like that would be really cool. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely hard, except for like, oh yeah, I'd like to see this character in this place. Like again, like I'd love like an Aaron and not Morgan, Aaron and Gabriel episode. Like, yeah, that'd be cool. Just like give them a little thing. I don't want it to just become what if, but like maybe a couple what if would be cool.
Yeah,
For if you like, I'd love like a what if Rick died and Shane lived. Like obviously that's something people talked about for a while now. Like that'd be cool. I mean, I think
what if,
like
what if Rick didn't decided not to look for his family? What if he just said okay and he just lived in the hospital?
Yeah.
There you go. What if that?
What if Carl didn't die? Just
what if Carl didn't die? What if he didn't get bit?
That's a whole just like series. Like that's not even an episode. and again, like I think like more of what they did here, but like I guess better. Like I want it to be like I don't know, like I think what they did in the first episode, which is hey, it's following this guy trying to find a girl. Like okay, that's a totally valid episode. It's just like maybe do it in a better way, just telling these new stories. I think I'm totally okay with. But yeah, no, I guess it is what it is. Okay, next is The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. Now this is the only one of the new spin-offs, I guess, that has a second season. Obviously all these are still ongoing, so again, like our rankings for some of these will probably change eventually. But like, what's your thoughts on Daryl Dixon?
Daryl Dixon for me was improved by season 2. I think season 1 I thought was like fine. I didn't love it, but I was like, yeah, it was fun to spend time with this character again in this world. Seeing Paris was definitely my favorite part of the first season of like jumping into like France and Paris and stuff like that. But season 2, kind of bringing in Carol and going into a lot of that stuff, and like season 2, did you finish season 2? Did you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, season 2 felt like it was speed running, wrapping up all the France stuff really quick. Where it was like it felt like we were pretty quickly going through all these characters and just getting rid of them, so that Daryl and Carol can be mostly on their own for next season, when they're going to Spain or whatever. And like. That's fine. I can see why people were disappointed in season 2 if they really loved season 1, because you're losing a lot of the character moments and the things you were really enjoying or whatever. But yeah, I enjoyed the second season a lot more than the first season, and I think if season 3 is more in line with the first and second season, I'd love to see what they do. I'm interested to see on what was the new character's name, the pilot. I'm interested to see what they do with if he's going to be in the next season with the kid, or if they're just gone from the show now. Like if we're going to follow them trying to get to Alexandria or something like that, that'd be cool.
Oh, that'd be sick. Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be a nice way to kind of like you could reintroduce a couple of the main show characters if you wanted to, at least for like an episode or something.
And then cool. Season 3 is called The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol, featuring Gabriel and Aaron. That'd be great. I'd love that.
Yeah, I didn't love Daryl Dixon. And full transparency, this is one of my fatal flaws. Sometimes I struggle with captions. Sometimes it's hard for me to keep up.
It's a subtitle heavy show.
It varies. So sometimes I don't pick up everything, and that probably is again not on the show whatsoever. Like this isn't anything to do with my criticism or anything. It's just a personal thing I struggle with sometimes. I do feel, and again, that probably plays a big part, but I feel like it is one of the shows I've had a more harder time getting invested in than some of the other ones. I love Daryl as a character, and I do think the show made me realize why he is so good is because of the characters that he's with, right? He is a really, really good supporting character.
I completely agree.
And season 1, I didn't love a lot of the supporting characters around Daryl. Yeah. So I felt like it was just like, okay, this is cool. It's nice being in a new area and some new challenges and some new things. Like, that is definite. Like, I think, like, I do think the best of the show is just because of the location, and it does have that new flavor with Daryl Dixon. That is fun. Yeah. But, like, nothing really, like, really sparks my excitement in that first season. And I agree with you. I like season 2 more, I think, because it's very much improved by Carol being there. I think Daryl and Carol, when they're on screen together, is really just good. Like, it's good to have fun. Those two back
they're a
good
together. Dynamic.
They are a fantastic I mean, they kept the show together, I think, once Rick left. Like, once Rick and Michonne left, they were the main characters of that show, and I think it worked for the most part. I think they did a good job with that. And I thought Carol in season 2 was really good. Like, I think there's a reason it's called Book of Carol, because I think she stole the show in the second season.
Yeah. A lot of the first episode was just her, wasn't it? Like, focused on her.
Yeah, that episode made me realize, oh, maybe I'd prefer I would prefer a solo Carol show over just a solo Daryl show. Like, if you if you told me, hey, pick one or the other, like, one will never appear on the other, it's just one or the other, I'd be like, I think I'd probably pick Carol. I think she's the more, I don't want to say interesting, but, like, probably more interesting character. I feel like she is such an adaptable character with everybody. She just kind of blends in with the cast a little bit more. But them together is great. Like, I feel like now that they are full time together, I'm a lot more excited for season 3, because I'm excited to see what their dynamic together will be. Like, just these two traveling the world, seeing different, types of zombies and, like, things that they're doing there is really cool. And probably my favorite season of Carol in a very long time. I think, like, this was a season about, like, it's always about grief, but, like, really getting down to the nitty gritty of, like, she's never actually grieved for any of her children. Like, she's never got the chance to actually do it. And I feel like it's all fun. Like, now that she's alone and things are okay where they are, like, it's always been one thing after another, and finally it's like, oh, I'm alone by myself. How do I process these feelings that I've been piling up for now, 10 years? So I thought that was excellent. I thought her finally being able to say goodbye to her Sophie?
Yeah, Sophia.
Yeah. Season 2.
Season 2. Season 2, episode 8. Yeah.
Fantastic. Like her whole thing was like, I don't remember what her face originally looked like. Like, that bit was like, oh, that's good. And then
a good way to have it so that it's a new person playing her as well, because obviously, like, 15 years have passed. Like, that's so good. I completely agree with you. Like, I think Daryl, he's never been one of my favorite characters on the shows. Like, I always think because I feel like there's not a lot to him, outside of his grunts and his noises that he makes. Like, he's just kind of there a lot of the time, and I feel like he's just sort of there to help another character. So when you bring in another character from the main show into this, it makes it better.
Yeah. And in fairness, when he is, like, with the other characters, is good. Like, I think the kid, Luan, I forget the kid's name, but, like, I love Father Daryl, like, with like his stuff with Judith and season 10 and 11 Walking Dead. That was some of my favorite stuff. Him as, like, a guardian, as, like, a father, as, like, a protector of the people he loves is great. It's always great. I think he does a fantastic job. It does suck he's now left his second child in this
year. Not good at sticking around, is he?
No. I do hope he, like, I'm wondering, are they going to try and get back, or are they just going to be like, well, all right, let's just move on? Like, I'm wondering what the story.
They were going through the Channel Tunnel to England so that they could try and get from England to America. But we know that season 3 takes place in mostly Spain. So I'm assuming at some point, I'm assuming they go through Spain to try and get to America. Because I guess if you go down south that way, Spain's got a pretty big coast. Guess you could try and get a boat. You go across that way, I guess. Spain's a bit of a detour, though, because it's like, if you're going to try and get a boat across from Spain, why not just go from France? I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Yeah. Unless they're just traveling down trying to get to, like, to South America or something, get up that way, because Spain will be closer to there, I guess.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm not a geography expert. You want to know how to get in a boat? Go call somebody who is.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, and like I kind of like the template of the show though, being like, well, we're just slowly making our way back to America as we travel all these different places to get
Just
there. Like I
exploring
think,
Europe.
yeah, that's a really fun template for a series. Like every
Yeah.
season we're traveling somewhere new. Like I really like that.
I do like
And
that.
then eventually the final season would be cool if like it is like a reunion season kind of thing. Maybe that is the final season of like The Walking Dead main or whatever. It's like everyone working together. Maybe at that point we're back in 2027 or whatever, so we get Negan
Dead
and
City.
Maggie and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. Where would you rank this one?
I think it is number 3 for me. Yeah. No, sorry, no, it's number 4 for me.
Number 4 for me. Okay, it's number 5 for me. So pretty
Okay.
close.
Okay.
I have it. It's one of my least favorite ones, but it's above Tales of the Walking Dead. So
Okay, it's above. It's season 2 brought it above Dead City for me, so it's above Dead City, World Beyond, and
okay.
Tales for me.
Interesting. Okay. Oops. Hold on. Okay, let's talk about this one first. The Ones Who Live. This is. I mean, this is the. No, it's not the newest season outside of Daryl, but I guess
Daryl Dixon's the newest. This is the one before Daryl.
Yeah, this one came out this year. The most I've seen people talk about The Walking Dead in a very, very long time. I felt like it or not, this was like an event series. Like I felt like a lot of people were tuning back into this universe for the first time. We talked about this a little bit, I think the last time you were on, because I just finished the show last time you were on. I'm curious to see where this one lands for you. The Ones Who Live, though, what's your kind of opinion?
I'm so conflicted on this show because I strongly believe that the final 2 episodes of The Ones Who Live are one of the weakest, like, endings or wrap-ups for anything in the Walking Dead universe. I think the way that the 6th episode plays everything out is such a cheap cop-out for so many storylines and so many characters. It genuinely feels like the first 4 episodes are part of a different show for me, where I'm like, this first 4 stuff is really good, but it's also super slow paced. So you're like, how are they going to wrap this up in the final 2 episodes? And the answer is they're going to wrap it up by just speed running through like what could be seasons of story in Soka. I think that's why I'm annoyed about the World Beyond stuff as well, because episode 6 is where a lot of the World Beyond stuff should have come into play, especially since we're now dealing with Major General Beale and we're talking about the Echelon briefing and all this big stuff that was teased for years and years and years, and none of it really matters in the end. And Rick and Michonne somehow get away by like blowing everything up. And then the CRM are gone, and it's just, I don't know. But it's like, I love the first 4 episodes so much, and I love the fact that Rick and Michonne are both back, that I have it much higher than it should be, because just seeing Rick back in alone is like enough to make me hyped for anything,
right?
You know?
Yeah, no, I think this is a situation too of like, I completely agree with everything you just said, but I also don't know if it bothers me to the extent. I think mainly because I haven't been waiting as long. Like I just kind of like, I finished the show and I'm like,
6 years for Rick to come back.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I finished the main show and I could just watch it whenever I want, technically. You know what I mean? So like, there wasn't that for me. I really enjoyed the show though. I really did. I liked the first 5 actually. Like I think the first 5 are some of my favorite Walking Dead stuff since probably like season 9 of the main show. Like I really vibed with this show. I think is it episode 4? I think might be my favorite episode of this entire franchise, where it's just like Rick and Michonne finally together being able to talk about what the heck just happened, and like the unbrainwashing of Rick Grimes and being like no, this isn't you, it's okay, like I am here now, we can do this together, like trying to rebuild Rick Grimes brick by brick, and like that whole thing was, I thought, like almost perfect.
It was so good. Yeah, perfect episode.
Incredible. And I think for those alone, like it's going to be very hard for it not to be like one of my favorite of the show. I fully agree though. Like episode 6, I do think, I don't know if I'd call it bad, but like it's very like Disney Plus coded, where it's like, oh my gosh, we're at the end.
Gotta
okay,
wrap up. Rush through it.
Do the stuff. I really wish it was at least a 2-season show. I wish like season 1 was about like the rebuilding of Rick Grimes, and then season 2 was the war against like the what's it called again?
CRM.
the CRM, yeah. Like I think, or like if you do like somewhat defeat it here, there's consequences for that. Where it's like there's other ones, like there's multiple buildings to this thing. Like I love like a civil war, you know, like maybe like building up a resistance. Yeah. Like building up, like they're bombing all these people. Start going to them and be like, "Yo, like they're after you. They're going to destroy the world. Like help us, you know, build up a whatever to fight them or whatever." Like I think, you know, again, maybe you could have brought back some of the characters we love from the main show. You know, you could go to the, oh gosh, I'm blanking today. You can go to the, where's all the characters that again?
Like Alexandria.
Yeah, and what's that place called?
Hilltop, Oceanside. Where are they? Oh, Commonwealth.
Commonwealth, yeah. Like go to Commonwealth, be like, "Yo, you haven't seen me in a while, but I need your help or whatever." Like maybe you could have done a little bit of that. Where's your ranking of it though? Because it seems like
I have it at 3, so it's above most of the spinoffs because I'm like that. Those first 4 episodes and seeing Rick back is so good that it's hard like for me not to love it that much. But yeah, it's like it keeps it below Fear the Walking Dead because of how it ends.
Right. Yeah, it's my number 2, I think.
Okay. So we pretty much say Fear the Walking Dead dividing it.
Yeah, because I haven't seen Fear yet, so basically the same spot. And I imagine we both have the same season or number 1 spot, which is why I saved it for last.
The Walking Dead.
Which is The Walking Dead.
Can I really quickly run toilet while you're talking about The Walking Dead?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no, I mean the main show, I mean it's okay. So I think when ranking the main show of stuff or shows that have run this long, I think it's hard to rank this main show comparatively to everything else because this is a 11 season show, and I guess Fear you can also rank Fear, which is an 8 season show retrospectively to like a bunch of 1 season series, which makes it hard. Which like you could go either direction. You can say, hey, the main show is one of the weakest because it has the biggest ups and downs, or you could say, well, season 1's the weakest because it's the golden standard. It's what set everything else apart. You know, it's there would be no other show without the main show. And you know, like I'd argue, you know, for the time and what I've heard, the main show is some of the best TV of its kind, and it really set the standard for you know sci-fi television of its era. And I think like that's such a special thing. And like when I was watching through it for the very first time, like there was a specialness to it, and you know there was a feeling of what I'm watching. It almost felt like I was watching a piece of history. Like the more I watched, the more I went through it, the more I felt like, oh, I get it now. I get why this was such a worldwide phenomenon, and I wish that I could go back and like I wish I could be there for this show because I think like my love and history for this series would be a lot more if I could be like, okay, I'm sitting down every week and watching it along with everybody else and having those experiences and having that history with the show. Obviously, it's a show of ups and downs, but honestly, I think it's like surprisingly consistently good. Like I don't know if there's ever like a bad season of the main show. Like there's some kind of mid stuff in there. There's some times like it's kind of I guess boring, I think is kind of the worst of it. Like there's I think season 7 is the worst of it for me because there are some episodes in there that I consider to be not good. Like there's like 2 or 3 episodes in that season I'm like, yeah, it's kind of fallen off the wayside. But I think even then it's I think at its worst it's still better than a lot of TV shows that I've seen that I would consider to be bad. Connor, I guess I went through a lot in those 2 minutes, but what I started saying at the very top was like, I think it's hard to rank a show like The Walking Dead comparatively to the other ones. This 11 season show, what, like 150 episodes to like Dead City, who's had like 6 episodes or whatever.
Seems unfair because it's like at 150 episodes, you're surely gonna you could be the worst show ever, but putting out 150 episodes, you're surely gonna hit diamond, like, for like a season at least, you know? Like,
Yeah.
it's hard at that amount of episodes to have bad the whole way through.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I run into the same issue when I rank like Arrowverse stuff, where it's like, well, Flash season 1 and 2 is some of my favorite TV of all time, and then it's like, oh yeah, but what about season 7? It's like, yeah,
Yep.
it's like, how does it like? Is Dead City better because it's technically more consistent,
Yeah.
technically, but like, that's not fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's your number one though, right?
It's my number one. Yeah. The Walking Dead is one of my favorite shows of all time. Especially the first 5 seasons. There's a period from mid season 2 until early season 5 that is like potentially in my top 5 television runs of episodes of all time. Like, it's Rick Grimes is one of my favorite TV characters of all time. I think Andrew Lincoln is so good as Rick, and there's so little about those seasons that I dislike. It's just a show that I have a lot of nostalgia for and I have a lot of good memories with. That it's like, even though I think season 7 and 8 are quite bad, it's always a show that's going to be on my favorite shows of all time list, just based off of how much I enjoyed the early stuff. You know, I feel like it's similar to how you feel about the Flash, like you said, where it's like Flash was never a show for me that I fell in. I mean, I loved it when it first started, but because Arrow was kind of my show, Flash never really filled in that spot for me. But for you, it was Flash, where that was your sort of show.
Yeah. 100%. Like, we would not be here talking to each other right now if it wasn't for the Flash.
Yeah.
Like, it's like changed everything for me. But no, like, I would like while you were gone, I was saying that like I really wish I could have watched this show live, or like at least some of it live, because I knew I would have been like, just like, it would have had that same Arrow, Flash, Legend, Supergirl feeling for me, where it's like, well, it's ingrained into my brain and this important piece of pop culture. Like, I think I watched most of the show on a binge over the course of like 6 months.
Yeah.
But I know if I would have, if I would have had that break of like, wait, like, who's this Negan guy? Why? Like who did he just kill? Like, I think if I would have had that break, and I would have been able to talk over a hiatus, and being like, okay, what's gonna happen next season, or like who do we think is gonna die? I would have it. I think it would easily be on my favorite show list, like, without a doubt, because it just shows like this don't exist anymore, man.
I mean, it was prestige TV for a while. Like, it was the show, along with Game of Thrones. It was the show you didn't want to miss. It was the one that you were like, okay, I can't go on Twitter tomorrow. I can't go on Facebook tomorrow because everyone's going to spoil The Walking Dead on me, sort of thing. It's like, even going to school, I remember, because I didn't start watching it till mid-season 4. And I remember, like, around the time of season 5 coming out, where it was like the Terminus episode, everybody been waiting for. I was like, I can't go to school until I see this episode, even though it was airing at like 2 a.m. over here. I was like, I gotta watch it because I'm gonna get it spoiled on me.
Right. And like, even as someone who wasn't watching all those years, like, you knew the legacy of that show to an extent. Like, I didn't know who Rick Grimes was, but also I felt like I knew who Rick Grimes was. Like, I remember when certain events unfolded. I remember like the pop culture wave. Like, when Carl died, I remember everyone was like, Carl just died. Like, did you hear Carl? They just killed off Carl. And it's like, oh, well, that's crazy. And then when the Rick thing
that's
happened,
crazy. I don't know who that is. Yeah.
When the Rick thing happened, it was like everywhere. Like, I didn't know what the heck was going on. I was like 6th grade when that happened or something, but like, it was everything. It was like the end of the world. And like,
it was for me. I was like, you gonna kill off Rick? How dare you? What are you doing? That's my guy right there. That's my goat.
No, 100%. It's crazy, and so crazy to do that when like the show is still like, it's one thing to kill off the main character when it's like over, like it's the end of the show. Okay, whatever. But like,
with seasons to go,
there's to keep on rolling with him gone. Like, that's not heard of. At least I feel like at the time it wasn't as heard of as it is now. At least
I think Andrew Lincoln leaving was tied with COVID as what eventually killed the show, because like they did end up wrapping up the full comic book storyline. But I know in like seasons 10 and 11, they had to start rushing through some stuff to get that out ending. Like I think they easily could have gone to 12 to 14 seasons if they really wanted to. But I think COVID tied with not having Rick anymore meant that they were like, okay, let's just lose some of these extra storylines. We'll do the Commonwealth properly, and that'll be us done.
Yeah. And also, like, I've also heard Carol or Carl was a big reason. Like, I've had people on here in the past, like, when I hear their thoughts on the show, and they're like, well, I stopped after Carl died. I couldn't do
Losing
it.
Carl was insane.
That was huge. And I also imagine
not wanting to pay him was crazy.
That's insane to me. That's insane. Yeah. Just like Hollywood sucks, man. Hollywood.
It absolutely does.
I can't stand it sometimes. But no, it's you know, like again, like it is. Again, I binged it in a year, so I feel like I didn't process a lot of it as much as I wish I could have. But like, yeah, some of the best TV I've seen in a minute. Like, it's really, really well done. Those first 5 seasons are like, again, it's kind of like that Supernatural thing we've talked about a bit, where it's like, if you ended it at like season 5, it would be one of the greatest shows ever made.
Yeah, people would remember it as like a perfect show.
100%. I couldn't agree less.
Supernatural, man. They ended that season. Imagine people calling Supernatural one of the greatest shows of all time. They could have been that. That's
you know
crazy.
What? I still kind of do. I don't know. Like, I kind of like.
It's a good show. It is good.
I feel like, especially now that it's over, I feel like people don't think that harshly about the show. Like, yeah, there's some silly stuff in there. There's some weird stuff. But I feel like they're so far removed. Again, I have still like 5 seasons on that show. But I feel like it's so far removed from like the bad of the show that's like, yeah, it's a good show. It's always been a good show. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it's like that show's legacy is like strong. Like, I feel like
it's really strong.
Like, I feel like
it's one of the biggest fandoms of all time. Like,
yeah,
the Supernatural fans were some of the, like, they could take over the world if they wanted to.
They still are. They're still very active. They're still, which pisses me off that Winchesters didn't do better, because it's like, you put Winchesters on literally any other place outside of the CW, I think it would have been a hit. You put
was
that
Winchesters cancelled before the whole CW mess or after it? Like when things started getting cancelled, was that when Winchesters?
It was one of the first ones to go. It was with Legends and that.
Okay, damn, okay. Because I can't remember whether it was a case of it was just low ratings or if like they just were getting rid of shows anyway.
You know what? I actually think it was a little after the Batwoman Legends. It was like that second wave of shows. I think with like.
I still stand by that their final doing what Superman and Lois should have done. That their final was way more respectful about removing themselves from the main continuity than Superman and Lois was.
But
that's
like,
just me.
Can you imagine like Winchester's on like Netflix or something? Like, I think it'd be
it would have done so well. It's perfect for Netflix too. Like, it's exactly the kind of show that they like. That does well over there too.
Yeah. It's I could go down that rabbit hole again. We've gone down that rabbit hole so many times. But Connor, thanks for doing the show today, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back. Enjoyed it.
Thanks for being here, man. It's been, it had been a while, so it was great to have you back and finally do this. Eventually I'll do Fear, and maybe we'll do something with
I'd love to talk about Fear properly with you whenever you do.
That'd be fun. Connor, you're back on YouTube. You've been uploading again. You've been having a schedule
daily.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter, which Exit over here on Twitter, Exit over here on YouTube, but with a 1 instead of an I for some reason, because somebody stole Exit over here, the tag. There's somebody out there with like 2 subscribers who has the Exit over here tag. Somehow, considering every other thing I'm on, I've never seen anybody try and take Exit over here. Like Exit over here is my name everywhere else, and no one's ever tried to take it on anything else. But for some reason, some guy on YouTube has it. So if you're watching this, happy for you, good for you. Ruined my life. But yeah, you can find me on YouTube.
Delete your channel.
Yeah, delete your channel. Give it to me. But yeah, that's it.
Amazing. Yeah, he's been uploading stuff. It's been great. Follow Super Lois stuff. He just uploaded you ranked every Star Trek show.
I ranked all 12 Star Trek shows. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you ranked Walking Dead shows and Star Trek shows on the same day. It's crazy.
That's crazy. Well, never been done. Never been done. They said. Prove them wrong.
Yeah, for me, we have some fun stuff coming out. Sunday, I'm uploading. We did a video talk about the Teen Titans show. I just finished that show, so I made a video about that. That was fun. Join us on After the Credits, man. I will say I'm really enjoying doing After the Credits over these last several weeks. Like doing Superman Lois has been a blast. Taz is back on the show, so that's been really fun having him over there. And go check out that show because like we're about to jump into a lot of cool stuff. Like Creatures is coming up. The new Doctor Who special is coming up. The final 2 episodes of Hell of a Boss is coming up. Next year's gonna be crazy for TV. Like I'm so excited for next year.
Yeah,
so
go
crazy. Check out that show. Pipeline also next week. I think we're probably gonna do a Superman Lois retrospective or something to do with Superman Lois. Now that's gonna be wrapping up. So go check that out. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I will see you guys on the flip side. Bye bye.